Chapter 316. I've crossed mountains and seas and passed through a sea of people. I've had everything in the blink of an eye. It's all gone. I've been lost, disappointed, and lost all direction until I see that ordinary is the only answer. The Ordinary Road was specially made by Lu Qin for the Zhonghua Vision R100 station wagon. It was a typical trip-hop chord breakdown, and the whole song had a strong folk style. The slow lyrical rhythm, clear voice, and low voice made the song full of a touch of warmth and sadness. In the music video edited by Lu Qin using online materials, the car and scenery are the eternal theme. The constantly changing scenery in the picture, as well as his voice entering the ear, and every word entering the heart, reflect each other, showing a strange charm, making people's state of mind can't help but follow the speeding car into the distance. It could let the listener enjoy the feeling of peace and youth, and find the direction of the future in sadness and confusion. I'm just like you, like him, like the weeds and wild flowers, inexorably. This is me, the only way to go. Time is silent, and so on. Tomorrow is in here. The road the wind blows is still far. Where is your story? Surprise and a trace of confusion froze in Zhuang Jingwei's eyes. Before watching this commercial music video, the creative director of Meisher Advertising had a strong doubt about Lu Chen's work. He even couldn't wait to teach Lu Chen a lesson, to let the latter know that not everyone can step in the professional field. But halfway through the music video, Zhuang Jingwei fell silent. From the point of view of commercial production alone, this music video was a mess. The editing was very amateurish, and the transition of the picture was very unnatural. It was completely a novice work. If it was made by a technical staff of Meisher Advertising, Zhuang Jingwei would definitely fire him immediately. However, Zhuang Jingwei was not stupid enough to use this point to attack Lu Qin. Because this was a demo, just like a script sketch used in a movie. The technology was completely irrelevant. The key was creativity, conception, and the theme expressed. On these three most important points, Zhuang Jingwei could not find any big problems. The soundtrack was too good, and the theme song was too good. The target group of the Zhonghua Vision R100 touring car was white-collar elites between the ages of 25 and 40 in the city. They had a certain economic foundation and career, and pursued spiritual freedom and enjoyment. Traveling by car was also one of the characteristics of this social class. Lu Chen's idea for the commercial, or rather, the MV, was undoubtedly able to hit the mark of their spirit. It was sincere and magnanimous enough to portray an extraordinary life journey. The lyrics were deliberately rough, and the rap at the end of the song went straight to the heart, truly expressing the feelings of the target group. It was a wonderful song of life with rich emotions. Even Zhuang Jingwei couldn't help but want to go out for a walk as he listened and watched. Unlike ordinary car commercials, there was no explanation of the car model's advantages and configuration, and there was no introduction of the product itself. The film reflected a strong emotion. This was the only way to move people's hearts. At the end of the film, as the song disappeared, the screen turned completely dark, and a paragraph of advertising slogans silently condensed. The body has not moved, but the heart is already far away. Then the advertising slogan faded away, and the logos of Zhonghua Automobile and Vision R100 quietly appeared. The picture froze. The conference room was silent, and time seemed to freeze at this moment. After a while, no one knew who took the lead in applauding, and then the applause rang out. Half of the people present were managers of Meisher Advertising. As practitioners in the advertising industry, even if they didn't think as deeply and carefully as Zhuang Jingwei, they could still judge the quality of an advertisement. From a creative point of view alone, the idea of this MV was not particularly novel and unique. Even if it was carefully produced at a huge cost, it was estimated that it would not win any awards in foreign awards. However, its theme idea and product fit extremely well, especially the theme song, which was perfect. It would definitely be an excellent advertising work in the domestic market. If Lu Chen's popularity was taken into account, its influence could not be underestimated. What made the advertising people, including Zhuang Jingwei, speechless was that the idea and editing of this demo was actually a singer-artist, not an elite in their industry. This made people feel ashamed. After applauding, Kai Jin asked Zhuang Jingwei, "Director Zhuang, do you have any opinion?" Zhuang Jingwei thought for a moment and said in a deep voice, "The idea are very good, the theme song is first class, and the general direction does not need to be changed. As long as it is reshot according to the idea, it will definitely be an excellent advertisement. I have full confidence in this." He looked at Lu Qin and sighed sincerely, "Mr. Lu Qin, it's an honor for me and our Meisher Advertising to cooperate with an excellent artist like you." Zhuang Jingwei's words made everyone's faces smile. The people in Zhonghua Automobile had already seen the demo, and now the negotiation needed professional advice. Getting the praise and approval of Meisher Advertising proved that their vision was right and they had chosen the right brand ambassador. Time is money, and the sooner the commercial is shot, the better it is for the promotion of the new model. Zhuang Jingwei's colleagues have never seen him so convinced by a layman before, and they all feel that it's interesting, and they can talk about it as an interesting story in the future. As for Lu Shi, who accompanied Lu Qin, she was even happier. In this way, the endorsement contract of Zhonghua Automobile will be stable. She is also proud of Lu Qin. With one song and one edited MV, Lu Qin easily convinced the two powerful collaborators. Lu Qin said with a smile, "Thank you. It's also my honor to cooperate with Zhonghua Automobile and Meisher Advertising." There was no tit-for-tat debate, no scheming quarrel. The atmosphere of the discussion between the three parties was very harmonious. The representative of Zhonghua Automobile confirmed the idea and creativity of the commercial on the spot, and then talked about the specific shooting issues. Lu Qin used online materials for editing. Most of them are movies from home and abroad. None of them can be used because of copyright issues. In addition to the alternative purchase materials, many shots need to be shot. As one of the protagonists, Lu Qin is naturally indispensable, and communication in advance is very important. The next day, Lu Qin's studio signed a formal endorsement contract with Zhonghua Automobile. 2 years of 12 million, not including the remuneration for work outside the contract. For example, this song, "The Ordinary Road," Zhonghua Automobile needs to pay an additional 500,000 to buy the copyright. With the first endorsement fee in the account, the financial situation of the studio has finally improved a lot. The shooting of a new TV series has also been put on the agenda. But before that, Lu Qin has an important event to participate in, that is, the 72-hour music festival. Chapter 317. February 22nd is the Lantern Festival. On the 15th day of the first lunar month, the Lunar New Year's Festival is officially over, and major colleges and universities are about to open. The whole society will then re-enter the fast pace of daily life. After signing the endorsement contract with Zhonghua Automobile, Lu Shi helped Lu Qin win 2 advertising contracts with Thunderbird Watch and Lanjie Cosmetics, earning another 10 million. The funds for shooting the new drama are basically no longer a problem, but Lu Qin is not in a hurry to announce the shooting plan. On the day of the Lantern Festival, he came to his new home. The new house that Qin Fei transferred to Lu Qin is in the Xicheng Yuan district in Beijing. Xicheng Yuan was developed by Bandung, the leader of the domestic real estate industry. The location of the building is between the 3rd Ring Road and the 2nd Ring Road, not far from Yuantan Park. The construction was completed in 2007, and it is a real high-quality and high-priced property. The house is in room 1701 of Building 7, with a total of 300 square meters on the upper and lower floors, with a layout of 5 bedrooms, 2 living rooms, and 3 bathrooms. Compared with the single apartment that Lu Qin is currently renting, the conditions are simply worlds apart. The most important thing is that the management of the Xicheng Yuan district is excellent. Lu Qin basically doesn't have to worry about being harassed by paparazzi. Of course, the property management fee is also quite expensive. Considering that the Zicheng Yuan district is also very close to the New Era Art Park, Lu Chen decided to move in after signing the sublease contract there. The house has been officially transferred to his name. Since Chen Fei has already renovated the house, he can move in directly as long as he brings his belongings over, which is very convenient. The decoration of the new house is very good. It can be seen that it was designed by a famous designer. The simple European style coupled with the rather artistic decoration makes people feel comfortable living here. There are 2 rooms on the first floor, a living room, a kitchen, a dining room, and a bathroom. The living room is very large, and it is no problem to invite 3 or 5 friends to hold a small party. The kitchen and dining room are abnormally clean and have no signs of being used. The sofa, furniture, kitchen, bathroom, and home appliances were all equipped with famous brands. Although Lu Chen did not know much about renovation, he could tell that Chen Fei had spent at least 2 or 3 million on this house. The price of a house in Zicheng Garden was at least 100,000 yuan. This house with a first-class floor and a first-class design was definitely a discount for him. It was truly the price of a friend. Of course, compared to the price at which she bought it, she made a huge profit. In recent years, the housing prices in the capital had been rising rapidly. Even outside the 5th Ring Road, the price was 20 to 30,000 yuan. It had reached a point where ordinary people could not afford it. If Lu Chen hadn't been lucky enough to embark on this path, he wouldn't have been able to afford a house in Ji Province, which was adjacent to the capital, let alone a house in Zicheng Park. I've only stayed here a few times, but I've arranged for people to clean it regularly, so it's very clean. Chen Fei smiled as he pulled Lu Chen's hand and said, "I'll go upstairs and take a look." Today, she brought Lu Chen to look at the house. She was so happy that it was as if she had just bought a big new house. As a music queen with an annual income of tens of millions or even hundreds of millions, Chen Fei simply had a soft spot for real estate. She never invested the money she earned into any financial products. Most of it was invested in real estate. She had many villas, commercial houses, and shops under her name. Facts had proven that this conservative investment method had brought her huge profits that exceeded her own business. With money, she could be willful. In addition, she had a wide network of contacts in the entertainment circle. Therefore, Chen Fei could control her career and fate in her own hands. She didn't need to rely on any management company. Compared to most artists, she lived more freely. As they walked up the spiral staircase, Chen Fei smiled mysteriously. "I've prepared a gift for you." Lu Chen was curious. "What gift?" Chen Fei giggled and didn't answer. Upstairs, it was another special world. The small hall connected to the staircase had been transformed into a small bar and tea room. Outside, there was a scenic balcony full of all kinds of green potted plants. People couldn't help but want to sit down and drink tea while reading a book. At the same time, they could also enjoy the bustling scenery of the capital. Opposite the small bar, there was a brand new upright piano. The golden harp logo branded on the body of the piano flashed with a faint light, clearly indicating its value. This expensive Steinway piano was a housewarming gift from Chen Fei to Lu Chen. Lu Chen was surprised. "Thank you." Chen Fei rolled her eyes at Lu Chen as if she was blaming him for being polite. Lu Chen chuckled, reached out and hugged Chen Fei's willowy waist, and bent down to kiss her soft lips. It was a long kiss full of emotion and affection. It didn't end until Chen Fei's face turned red. She pushed Lu Chen shyly and said, "Try the piano." Lu Chen nodded, sat in front of the piano, opened the lid, and tried the timbre and intonation first. The timbre of the Steinway piano, which was worth hundreds of thousands of yuan, was excellent. Although the vertical model was not as good as the triangle model, it was already a luxury configuration for home use. The intonation had also been adjusted by professionals. At least, Lu Chen couldn't hear any problems. Although he had obtained countless precious memories in the dream world, Lu Chen had never thought of relying on these wealth to eat and wait for death. He had been working hard to improve his abilities in all aspects and had never stopped learning. For example, Lu Chen's original level was not much better than that of a beginner, but now it was not a big problem for him to take the amateur level 8 or 9 exam, and there was still a lot of room for improvement in the future. Putting aside the dream memories, Lu Chen was still very talented in music. Chen Feier said, "Play a song." Lu Chen asked, "I'll play and you'll sing." Chen Feier thought for a moment and replied, "You play and sing by yourself, and I'll record it for you." She really took out her mobile phone, turned on the recording function, and began to record Lu Chen. Lu Chen couldn't help laughing. He sat up straight, pressed his fingers on the smooth keys, and said very seriously, "This song is for the most beautiful, intelligent, and proud Miss Chen Feier." Chen Feier's hands couldn't help shaking. She held back her laughter, held the mobile phone again, and continued to record. However, Lu Chen played the prelude. To Chen Feier's surprise, although the melody played by Lu Chen was very beautiful, it was very strange. This was a new work. Although she had long been accustomed to Lu Chen's seemingly endless musical inspiration, at this moment, Chen Feier still felt very surprised. This song was specially for her. "Here, winter, leave, I wake up in a certain year and a certain month. I think, I wait, I look forward to, but the future can't be arranged for this. Cloudy day, evening, outside the car window, there's a person waiting in the future. Looking left, right, forward, love has to turn a few corners to come. Who I meet, what kind of dialogue will I have, how far in the future the person I'm waiting for is, I hear the wind from the subway and the sea of people, I line up to hold the number plate of love." Beautiful melody, bright style, simple lyrics. Although there was a trace of melancholy and sadness in the lyrics, it was sung by Lu Chen extremely affectionate, more like the pursuit and persistence of love. Chen Feier was the only audience. Listening to this song, her eyes quietly appeared intoxicating softness. "I fly forward, flying over a sea of time, we have also been hurt in love, I see that the entrance of the dream is a little narrow, I met you as the most beautiful accident. One day my mystery will be revealed." When Lu Chen sang, "I met you as the most beautiful accident," he looked back at Chen Feier. "Meeting you is the most beautiful accident." Chen Feier bit her lips, wanting to cry and laugh at the same time. She wanted to throw herself into his arms even more. She stopped recording, put down her phone, and looked at Lu Chen's eyes. Their lingering feelings silently met in the air. Lu Chen only sang this song once. After singing, he stood up and asked Chen Feier, "Do you like it?" Chen Feier threw herself directly into his arms and couldn't wait to give him a hot kiss. After kissing for a long time, the two sat together on the sofa. Chen Feier leaned against Lu Chen's arms, playing with her phone and asked, "What's the name of this song?" Lu Chen replied, Meeting. Chen Feier chewed the name of the song softly, and suddenly opened her mouth to sing, "I fly forward, I fly across a sea of time, we have also been hurt in love, I see that the entrance of the road is a little narrow, I meet you as the most beautiful accident." Her memory was very good. She sang without missing a single word, and her pitch was also very accurate. Lu Chen was greatly impressed, because Chen Feier had heard the cover once, which was very close to the original singer in his memory, and her natural voice very well expressed the artistic conception of the song. The sound of nature means a lot. Do you think it's good for me to put this song in the new album? Lu Chen smiled and said, "It's good that you like it." The song for Chen Feier's new album had been decided, but if she liked it, it didn't matter if she changed it. Chen Feier happily opened the video meeting that she had just recorded on her mobile phone and watched it again. After watching it, she suddenly had an idea. "What do you think if I post this video on my blog?" Lu Chen was stunned and then immediately smiled and said, "It's good that you like it. This should have been a very private video. If it was posted on a blog, the relationship between the two would almost be semi-public, and it would definitely not be hidden. But what did it matter? It would happen sooner or later, and now was not the time to say that it was not the right time." The popularity of Autumn in My Heart made Lu Chen and Chen Fei the best couple in the eyes of fans, and many people on the internet shouted that they should be together. Hearing his answer, Chen Fei looked up at Lu Chen and asked, "Really?" Lu Chen nodded and said, "Really?" Chen Fei smiled, selected the title of the video, and forwarded it to her associated blog. After uploading it, she seemed to have completed a big thing. She threw the mobile phone away, then stood up and pulled Lu Chen and said, "Let's go and see the bedroom." Note: meeting lyricist, Yi Jiayang/composer, Lin Yifeng. Chapter 318. The 300 square meter high-class apartment was a super luxury level, comparable to an ordinary villa. The space on the upper and lower floors was very large, and the master bedroom was no exception. It was connected to a bathroom and a cloakroom. The adjacent room had been renovated into a study, and even the computer was ready-made. Chen Fei was very careful. Although she had not lived in this house for many years, there were still a lot of traces of living there. She had deliberately changed the bed sheets, quilts, furnishings and other items, so that the bedroom did not look like a boudoir. But there was still a photo of her on the bedside table. The diva of the music industry was like a child showing off her favorite toy. She pulled Lu Chen around the 3 rooms upstairs and asked, "Do you like it?" Lu Chen hugged her and said with a smile, "I like it, but it's too big and empty to live alone." Chen Fei said, "You can ask Sister Lu Shi to come and live with you, as well as Auntie and Lu Shui. In the future, you can ask Lu Shui to come to Beijing to study. Even if her grades are not good, she can still go to a good university." Lu Chen sighed, "They won't come. In fact, you are still missing one person." Chen Fei was puzzled. "Who?" Lu Chen said with a smile, "Don't you think this house is missing a hostess?" Chen Fei suddenly understood, and her pretty face turned red. "What does that have to do with me?" Lu Chen showed a thoughtful look and said, "Do you think I don't have to pay the 30 million yuan I owe you if I bring you in?" Chen Fei said with a smile, "In your dreams. I regret letting you pay me in installments. Pay me back quickly." Lu Chen finally revealed his ferocious face. He pressed Chen Fei down on the soft big bed and said fiercely, "It's too late to regret. Now you are in my hands. No one can save you even if you shout yourself hoarse." Chen Fei shouted, "Help," pressing down on her graceful body, smelling her enchanting fragrance, and listening to her soft and enchanting cries for help. Lu Chen could no longer restrain the passion in his heart, and once again deeply kissed her. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became incomparably charming. Just as the two of them were fooling around, the comment section of Chen Fei's Waves blog exploded. Chen Fei had more than 20 million fans on Waves blog. Usually, one of her blog posts would have tens of thousands of reposts and hundreds of thousands of comments. After Autumn in My Heart was broadcasted, it attracted a large number of Fei fans. There were more and more people paying attention to the movements of the heavenly queen of the music industry. Therefore, once the blog post titled "Meeting" was posted, it immediately attracted the attention of countless fans. When the fans clicked on the blog post, they found that the content was neither a selfie of Chen Fei, nor a sharing of work itineraries, or life experiences. It was actually a video of Lu Chen playing and singing. Autumn in My Heart had set a record for the ratings of domestic TV series in recent years. It made Lu Chen and Chen Fei a trend to become domestic couple idols. The relationship between the two had always been one of the topics that fans liked to talk about. Some people said that Lu Chen and Chen Fei were teachers and friends. They were like sister and brother. They had a very good relationship, but they were not a real couple. Some people said that the two had been dating for a long time, but they had not made it public. In addition to some media speculation, Lu Chen and Chen Fei had not released any private photos to confirm this scandal. Lu Chen's name and photos have also appeared in Chen Fei's blog, but they are basically related to work, music, or the kind of friendship that looks very simple. Now, the blog post that Chen Fei posted was undoubtedly very unusual. The video in the blog post was undoubtedly shot by Chen Fei himself. The shooting technique was not very good, but because the phone was good, the video was still very clear. First of all, the scene was definitely not a public place. From beginning to end, there was only Lu Chen in the camera. This song is for the most beautiful, intelligent, and proud Miss Chen Fei. Before he started playing the piano, Lu Chen's words were not like those of ordinary friends. They were full of love. Most importantly, when he was about to finish singing, he looked back at Chen Fei. The deep love in his eyes could be seen by anyone who was not blind. Meeting you is the most beautiful accident. Didn't this song sing Lu Chen's heart? Not to mention that Chen Fei took the initiative to upload the video to his blog. It was obvious that he wanted to announce their relationship. How could her fans not explode? He finally made it public. I knew it. Is this a public display of affection? It's killing the single dogs. 555, Fei is my goddess. Why do all goddesses have to leave me? Juanxi and Yunhui are really together. Throw flowers to celebrate. Whose house is this? This is a love song that Lu Chen gave to Chen Fei. It's really nice. You're very touched, aren't you? Don't hold me back, I'm already on the balcony. Bless. In just half an hour, meeting received more than 100,000 comments. They were all reposted by netizens, including Chen Fei's friends in the circle, further spreading its influence. Although the number of Lu Chen's fans was not as many as Chen Fei's, it was still more than 15 million. Many fans were fans of both of them, so if there was any movement on one side, the other side would know immediately. The reaction of Lu Chen's fans was even more intense. Ha ha ha, Big Lu Chen is mighty. I've already said it. Now you have nothing to say, right? It's obvious that they're in a relationship. Showing off your love will die faster. My Lu Chen will not be snatched away. Chen Fei and Lu Chen are really a good match. Let's bless them together. Don't be jealous. Burn the heterosexual to death. Gay is true love. What an unexpected surprise. I hope that the relationship between the two of you will last a long time. Bless them. It's the Lantern Festival. Is it really okay for the two of you to do this? Sigh, I didn't expect Lu Chen, who has thick eyebrows and big eyes, to betray the revolution. Most of the fans of Chen Fei and Lu Chen were pleasantly surprised by the PDA video that was suddenly released by her. Then, they gave their blessings. Only a small number of people were disappointed, dissatisfied, or cursed. In fact, basically, not many people were surprised. After all, there was so much foreshadowing. Coupled with the success of Autumn in My Heart, perhaps the real surprise was that the two of them did not end up together. There was also a small number of fans who thought that the two of them were shooting a commercial or a music video. However, this kind of unconvincing idea did not even cause a bubble to bubble. Compared to the explosive fans, the reaction of the people in the entertainment industry was undoubtedly much more cautious. After all, the two of them did not make an official statement. In order to avoid making a mistake, they temporarily took a wait-and-see attitude. Another explosion was the media. No one would have thought that Chen Fei would suddenly make such big news during the Lantern Festival. Therefore, the phones of the two's agents were soon exploding with calls. Chapter 319. Night fell slowly, and the capital was already brightly lit during the Lantern Festival. Room 1701 of Building 7 of Zicheng Garden was dark. A mobile phone that had been left between the cushions of the leisure sofa buzzed rhythmically, and the caller ID flashed red frequently. The phone rang for a long time, but no one picked it up and turned it on. Just when it calmed down, another mobile phone on the floor of the master bedroom rang again. However, no matter how hard it tried to call out to its owner, there was no response. The master bedroom was very dark. On the 2-meter-wide bed, the thick down quilt was swaying violently. Suddenly, a foot popped out from under the quilt, trembling slightly in the cold air. This foot was still dazzlingly white in the twilight. It was exquisite and round, and its skin was as translucent as jade. The arch of the foot was arched and the toes trembled. The round and bulging toes, coupled with the light pink toenails, looked very cute. The owner of the foot seemed to be going through a fierce battle. Sometimes it trembled, sometimes it curled up, sometimes it tensed up, and sometimes it relaxed. It stretched and bent its toes helplessly, trying to catch something, like a panicked drowning person. No one knew when it started, but a low moan sounded in the quiet bedroom. It was as soft as a flute, but it also sounded like the wail of a swan on the verge of death. There was a trace of unbearable pain, but it was extremely weak. Soon, it started again. It was like the sound of nature that could captivate one's soul, and there was an indescribable joy in it. In the midst of it, there was also the sound of heavy breathing, like a ferocious beast preying on its prey. The movement on the big bed lasted for a long time, accompanied by an uncontrollable scream. The exposed foot, which had already been covered with goosebumps, finally retracted under the quilt. Thus, there was only the sound of breathing in the room, and the thick and gentle spring scenery gradually spread out and blended into the night. After a long time, a figure crawled out of the warm quilt. He landed on the floor with bare feet, bent over to pick up the phone that was half hidden in his trouser pocket, and then quickly hid back on the bed, leaning against the headboard to look at the caller ID. "What's wrong?" Chen Feier poked her head out from under the blanket. The beautiful face of the heavenly queen of the music industry was flushed with shyness. There were still traces of tears in the corners of her eyes. Her hair was messy and sweaty, making her look even more seductive. Lu Chen reached out and pulled the beauty into his arms. He kissed her cheeks lovingly and said guiltily, "Sister called me a few times just now." It wasn't just a few, the screen showed more than 10 missed calls. Chen Feier shrunk his head and said embarrassedly, "Sister Zhang must have called me." Sister Zhang was Chen Feier's assistant for 10 years. She was also her manager. Sister Zhang usually handled the external affairs of Chen Feier's studio, including media contacts. She half-disclosed her relationship with Lu Chen in a moment of willfulness, which must have caused a sensation on the blog. It was inevitable that Lu Shi and Sister Zhang would call to ask about it. "You two started a fire, so you should at least give me an explanation, right?" However, Chen Feier didn't have the slightest regret in her heart. The result of a moment of passion was out of control. She did shameless things with Lu Chen in this new house to transform herself into a real woman. She had long been mature, but she didn't know how wonderful it was to be a woman until now. Lu Chen chuckled, dialed the number with one hand, and groped restlessly with the other. He simply couldn't stop himself. Chen Feier felt Lu Chen's hot palm caressing her skin, bringing with it a familiar hot feeling. She couldn't help but let out a soft moan, and her eyes were so charming that tears were about to drip out. She was in love and shy at the same time. She bitterly opened her cherry mouth and bit Lu Chen's shoulder. Hiss! Lu Chen couldn't help but take a breath of cold air, so ruthless. However, at this time, he had already dialed Lu Shi's number. Even if he wanted to take revenge, he had to endure it first. "Sister," this phone call lasted for more than 10 minutes, and Lu Chen was scolded half to death by Lu Shi. As a star artist, the problem of love was very important. Even if they wanted to make their relationship public, they had to arrange a plan first. At least, they had to let the company and the agent know so that they could deal with the media together. Chen Fei's blog post was very sudden. After posting it, she didn't care what kind of storm it would set off. She just immersed herself in the sweet sea of love. It was all so willful. The main reason was that both of them opened their own studios and were in charge of their own affairs. Unlike many artists who were controlled by entertainment agencies above them, they had to report and approve their relationship. However, in this way, their studios were naturally caught unprepared. Sister Zhang and Lu Shi could only deal with the storm-like interview requests of the media while calling the two of them. As a result, no one picked up after a long time. According to Lu Shi, it was too unreliable. If Lu Chen hadn't made this phone call, Sister Zhang and Lu Shi would have run to Zicheng Yuan to catch them in the act. Lu Shi knew that Lu Chen had come here to look at a house. Combined with the video on the blog, how could she not understand what was going on? In the face of his sister's anger, Lu Chen could only bow his head and admit his mistake, not daring to refute a word. "I'm wrong, I'm guilty." However, he didn't regret it at all. After scolding him, Lu Shi was probably in a good mood. She asked, "Is Fei with you?" Lu Chen answered honestly, "Yes." Lu Shi hesitated for a moment and asked again, "Are you too like that?" "Like that? I see." Although Lu Chen was thick-skinned, he couldn't help but blush. The topic was too sensitive. He didn't know how to answer it, so he could only wait in silence. Lu Shi snorted and said, "I knew you." "Forget it, give the phone to Fei, Sister Zhang wants to talk." Lu Chen handed the phone to Chen Fei, embarrassedly. "Sister Zhang is looking for you." Chen Fei, stuck out her tongue and took the phone. Sister Zhang, she was also complained about by Sister Zhang, but she finally got over it. After taking back the phone, Lu Chen directly pressed the power button and turned off the phone. He didn't want to be disturbed tonight. Just as he threw the phone aside, Lu Chen suddenly felt something strange on his chest. He looked down and saw Chen Fei, moving her slender fingers and drawing circles on her chest. She stared at Lu Chen with her big watery eyes, which were full of endless charm. The Heavenly Queen giggled and asked softly, "Are you hungry? I'll cook something for you." Seductress. Lu Chen couldn't help but growl and immediately pressed Chen Fei under his body. "Have a taste of my staff first." At 9:00 on the night of the Lantern Festival, Lu Chen's studio and Chen Fei, studio issued statements one after another, confirming that Lu Chen and Chen Fei were currently in the process of dating and sincerely hoped to get everyone's blessing. At 10:30, Lu Chen FMX published an article called, "My Meeting with You is the Most Beautiful Accident." The content of the article was a stills of Autumn in My Heart. In the photo, Yin Juanxi, played by Lu Chen, and Yin Enshi, played by Chen Fei, snuggled up to each other and smiled brilliantly in the sun. At the same time, Chen Fei and Chen Fei replied with a smiley face emoji. At this point, the relationship between the two was completely exposed, and at the same time, they also received the warm blessings of countless fans. Although a small number of fans expressed disappointment, loss, and even sadness and dissatisfaction, because of the previous foreshadowing, coupled with the huge influence of Autumn in My Heart, everyone actually expected and prepared in their hearts. Many people even eagerly hoped that they could be together, so they felt very surprised. The most worrisome situation of excessive fan emotions did not happen. Lu Chen and Chen Fei first met on the talent show, Singing China, on Beijing television. At that time, one was a contestant and the other was a mentor. However, they have known and fallen in love all the way to the present, which has undoubtedly become a popular story in the pop music world. No one knows how long their relationship will last, but friends in the circle and other celebrity artists they know or don't know have also sent their best wishes, making this topic quickly occupy the top of the blog hot search list. Without any suspense, by the next day, Lu Chen and Chen Fei's relationship became the entertainment headlines. QQ, make an appointment on the Lantern Festival. Lu Chen and Chen Fei officially opened their relationship. Tidal Web, it's no longer just a scandal, the truth of Chen Fei's love comes to light. EasyNet, seeing sibling love again. Lu Chen and Chen Fei no longer hide and calmly face millions of fans. Entertainment Weekly, fake drama becomes real. Lu Chen and Chen Fei reveal the secret of love. News headline, the perfect combination of a heavenly queen and a musical genius. Xinqing Daily, encounter is a beautiful love. Pop music, many media outlets dug out the previous information of Lu Chen and Chen Fei, pieced together the love route of the two, and matched it with all kinds of exaggerated words, which also attracted enough attention. More media outlets sent reporters to squat at the door of Lu Chen's studio and Chen Fei's studio, hoping to be able to stop the two parties and interview first-hand information. But these media reporters were disappointed. Both studios refused their interviews, and Lu Chen and Chen Fei were nowhere to be seen, as if they had evaporated from the world. Because whether it is Lu Chen or Chen Fei, they do not need to use their own relationship to hype up, turning the beautiful relationship between them into a tool for profit, and they do not want to become the hot topic of the media. There are countless news happening in the entertainment industry every day. As long as the two do not cooperate, this topic will naturally subside and no longer become the focus of people's attention. And Lu Chen and Chen Fei can quietly enjoy the time of their love. They left their never-ending work, threw the daily affairs to their respective agents, and quietly ran to Bali for a sweet vacation. It was not until March 2nd that Lu Chen and Chen Fei returned to Beijing. 2 days later, on March 4th, is the opening day of the most famous 72H Grass Music Festival in China. At that time, Lu Chen will lead the Nirvana band to perform. Chapter 320. With the passage of time, the hot news in the entertainment industry is like a summer storm, coming and going quickly. Because the two studios did not cooperate, and the two parties did not hype up the disappearance of Player, so except for the fans who were still noisy on the internet, the media quickly shifted their attention and were too lazy to continue to be self-sentimental. There was too much gossip in the circle. Here the two female stars were fighting, and there was a rumor that a male star was coming out of the closet. True and false hype and acting, there was as much material as he wanted. When Lu Chen and Chen Fei broke up one day, or one of them cheated, then it would be worth reporting. And this was exactly what Lu Chen and Chen Fei expected. They waited until the storm subsided before quietly returning to China. During this period, they did not show their love on the blog. In addition to cooling down the topic, it was also to avoid killing the single dogs. Beautiful time always passes quickly. After returning to Beijing, the two had to separate again and busy themselves with their respective careers. Although she loves Lu Chen, and her own wealth has accumulated to the point where it can't be spent in a lifetime, Chen Fei has no idea of quitting the entertainment industry for the time being. She likes singing, likes acting, likes standing in the spotlight, likes her career, and doesn't want to be reduced to a housewife early. Perhaps one day, when she is tired, she will marry Lu Chen without regrets and retire from the circle forever. She will wash away the prosperity and make soup with her bare hands. She will give birth to several children and accompany them to grow old happily. Lu Chen is very supportive of Chen Fei's idea. His career has just started, and it is the time for him to show his ambition. He does not want to mix feelings and career together. Only when two people understand and support each other can their relationship last and blossom and bear fruit. The separation and reunion in the entertainment industry is too common. Neither Lu Chen nor Chen Fei wants to be one of them. On the day he returned to Beijing, Chen Fei began recording the new album. Lu Chen, on the other hand, took the time to practice his new work with the Nirvana band, preparing to participate in the 72H Grass Music Festival. For this famous music carnival, he had written 2 new songs early. The 72H Grass Music Festival was founded in the early 1990s by a number of record companies and 7 famous musicians in the circle. At that time, the first music festival was held in Chaoyang Park in Beijing. The first music festival invited 32 singers and 11 bands to participate. More than 10,000 people came to attend the festival, which caused a great sensation at that time and became a grand event in pop music. By March 3, in Yeshan Park, south of the New Era Art Park, countless red and green tents had been erected, extending from the grass in front of the stage to the hillside hundreds of meters away. Looking down from above, the scene was spectacular. The singing stage was basically built, and the background and lighting were arranged. Only the sound equipment had not yet entered the venue. On the morning of the 4th, which was the opening day, 6 pairs of outdoor speakers taller than a person were placed in different positions. The big LED screen in the background of the stage began to play the test film, and the atmosphere suddenly became lively. More and more music fans appeared at the scene, and the entrances and exits of the park began to restrict the flow of people. There was also a cordon in the distance. The loudspeaker had been playing reminders, and media reporters appeared in the crowd. Lu Chen and the Nirvana band arrived at Yeshan Park near noon. Originally, Lu Chen didn't have to come so early, because his performance time was arranged at about 8:00 in the evening, and it was not too late to come when it was dark. However, he had long admired the name of 72H Grass Music Festival. He had never had the opportunity to come to the capital to see the scene. This time, he had the opportunity to participate in person, so he came in advance to recharge his faith. As for Wang Jing and other members of the Nirvana band, they had all seen the scene, but it was also the first time they went on stage, and they were also very excited and even excited. When Lu Chen just appeared in front of the stage with his people, he was immediately stared at. Chapter 321. Teacher Lu Chen. When Lu Chen walked toward the backstage, a vigorous figure flew over and blocked his way. Fortunately, Lu Chen's reaction was fast enough and stopped in an instant. Otherwise, he would have directly collided with the other party. You are. The person who blocked his way was a young girl in her early 20s. She was wearing a red down jacket with the logo of the 72H Grass Music Festival. Her appearance was ordinary, but she had a ponytail and looked very youthful and lively. Even the few freckles on her face revealed a bit of cuteness. There was an identity nameplate with an anti-counterfeiting logo hanging on her chest, and there was a cameraman following behind her. The ponytail girl was obviously very excited. Big eyes were full of excitement. She raised the microphone in her hand and pointed it at Lu Chen. She asked a series of questions. Hello, Teacher Lu Chen. I'm a reporter from the entertainment channel of Tide Network. What works have you prepared for this music festival? Do you have any plans to release a new album this year? Also, are you going to make a sequel to Blue Love? Can you talk about your relationship with Chen Fei? Stop. Lu Chen was a little dizzy from the bombardment of her series of questions. He quickly made a stop gesture. Lu Chen smiled bitterly and said, "Can you ask them one by one?" Tide Network was one of the large portal websites in China. It was also a local internet giant company in Beijing. It was currently listed on NASDAQ in the United States and had considerable influence. Therefore, Lu Chen had to give some face, even if the other party seemed to be a completely reckless newcomer. It was a very profound knowledge for star artists to deal with the media, and he was still learning. The ponytail girl's face turned red. She took a deep breath and said embarrassedly, I like your songs very much and the TV series you made. I'm also your loyal fan. She also knew that she was a little reckless just now, so she quickly explained a few words so as not to annoy Lu Qin. Stars hated entertainment reporters, but they were often willing to give some face to an entertainment reporter who was a part-time loyal fan. This little trick was taught by her predecessor, but she was really a fan of Lu Qin. Some time ago, when Lu Qin and Qin Fei announced their relationship, and when the media hyped it up, the two played the game of disappearing from the world and avoided the interview to quickly cool down the topic. But this didn't mean that this topic didn't sell. For the ponytail girl who was still a newcomer, being able to catch Lu Qin at the 72H Grass Music Festival today was like a big pie falling from the sky. She felt dizzy, so she was too excited and didn't pay attention to her words. If Lu Qin was scared away, the news would come to her. Her explanation was really effective. Lu Qin smiled and said, "For the sake of fans, what do you want to ask?" Lu Qin said. Lu Qin. Lu Qin. Lu Qin. Lu Qin nodded. Lu Qin nodded and said, "Okay, I'll be there in a minute." The 72H Grass Music Festival didn't have such a low level of accompaniment. It was all live accompaniment. The singers who participated in the performance could bring their own band or let the organizers arrange it. In addition, items such as drums, electronic organs, synthesizers, and so on were not easy to move. Unless they had special needs or obsessive-compulsive patients, most of the participating bands used the equipment provided by the organizers. Otherwise, if each band brought their own full set of equipment, it would be troublesome to move it back and forth, and it would be a waste of time to change it. As for guitars, basses, and other instruments that were easy to carry, most of them were self-prepared. The organizers provided multiple sets of the same equipment for the band members who arrived in advance to practice and familiarize themselves with it, so as not to affect their normal level of performance. The Nirvana band was no exception. Even if their territory was in Beijing, they were not arrogant enough to use their own instruments. They only brought a few guitars and basses, so they definitely needed to find a feel before going on stage. As soon as Wang Jing and the others left, the ponytailed reporter from the Trend Network Entertainment Channel couldn't wait to ask, "Teacher Lu Qin, is this your first time participating in the 72H Music Festival?" Lu Qin replied, "Yes, in fact, I wanted to come to Beijing a long time ago. I didn't expect to be able to participate in person today. It's a very fresh and exciting experience for me." Then, "Have you prepared any new works for this music festival?" There were many new singers and bands participating in the 72H Grass Music Festival, including many excellent singers and songwriters. Unless it was a tribute, they disdained to cover other people's works. At the music festival, original works were also the most popular and sought after, including many representatives sent by entertainment agencies. They were also happy to see more new and good works. At present, the domestic pop music scene really needed new original works, because many pop music lovers, including those ordinary listeners, had already begun to get tired of the same fast songs. Originality was king. This was the most important reason why the 72H Grass Music Festival could have such a great influence, even though it had a strong non-mainstream nature. Lu Qin was precisely relying on originality to start, especially the campus folk song trend that he set off. It had a great impact both inside and outside the circle, and the endless original works had brought him a high reputation. If Lu Qin cooked cold rice on 72H, it would definitely disappoint a lot of people. Of course, Lu Qin wouldn't disappoint everyone. "Yes, I have prepared 2 new songs, both of which will be my first public performance." The ponytailed reporter smiled and said, "That's great. I'm looking forward to your new works. May I ask if you have any plans to release a new album this year?" Lu Qin said without hesitation, "I will definitely release my second album this year." This was a fact without a doubt. Once the new studio at the art park was renovated and the recording studio could be put into use, he would start to produce his second album. Whether he went to shoot TV, movies, or anything else, music would always be the foundation that he stuck to. Lu Chen. Mr. Lu Chen. Teacher Lu Chen. Just as Lu Chen answered the ponytailed reporter's second question, 6 or 7 reporters suddenly ran over. They brought their respective cameramen and surrounded Lu Chen. Microphones and recording pens were extended to his mouth. It wasn't only the ponytailed reporter from Tide Network who came to interview the 72H Grass Music Festival. Many entertainment-related media had also sent out reporters to dig for news clues at the scene. The ponytailed reporter's interview with Lu Chen attracted their attention, so they swarmed over like bees smelling honey. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 or 20 people gathered, surrounding Lu Chen and making it difficult for him to move. Li Feiyu saw that the situation wasn't good, so he quickly stood in front of Lu Chen to protect him. The security guards at the scene also rushed over to help maintain order. But this didn't affect the enthusiasm of the reporters. They shouted and asked Lu Chen all kinds of questions. As a result, she took the lead in the beginning, but because of her small and weak body, the ponytailed girl was squeezed out of the crowd. She was so angry that she stamped her feet again and again, but there was nothing she could do. Grab news, news really needed to be grabbed. Especially when interviewing hot people, it was very important to occupy a position. Compared with the veteran entertainment reporters of QQ Network and Entertainment Weekly, the ponytailed girl was really too inexperienced. She stomped her feet and was depressed, but in fact, some people were even more unhappy than her. Hee, it's awesome to have a heavenly queen. On the east side of the stage of the music festival, on the grass not far from the backstage area, a large independent area was separated with warning tape. There were hundreds of tents inside, and in the open space between the tents, many singers with guitars sat in 2s and 3s. This position was specially allocated to singers and bands who came from outside to participate in the performance. On the one hand, it was to save their expenses, on the other hand, it was also an occasion for them to communicate. Therefore, it was possible to see several or a group of singers gathered together to chat, drink and talk about music. Because the location was very close, the scene of Lu Chen being interviewed by a large number of media reporters inevitably fell into the eyes of many foreign singers. Some people glanced at it and no longer paid attention. They were immersed in their own music world. Some showed curiosity or envy when they saw such a scene, and some showed disdain or even contempt. A group of about 20 singers looked in the direction of Lu Chen. A thin, dark-skinned, long-haired young man sneered, "This world still has to look at faces." His words were immediately agreed by others. Yes, being handsome is an advantage. Who told us not to have a good reincarnation? We can only rely on ourselves to work hard. Humph, in terms of strength, can he compare with our brother Gongzi? Those soft folk songs are nothing. Real singers should sing rock and roll. It's a pity that nowadays fans go to the face. Those entertainment companies are rushing to sign some little fresh meat. We are old wax sticks. In tonight's performance, Brother Gongzi will show his skills and shock them. When Brother Gongzi was popular, the Brother Gongzi they mentioned was Shi Gang, the lead singer of the Wednesday Band. The Wednesday Band was founded at the beginning of the new century with 5 members. It was originally a pure rock band. The band became famous at the 72H Grass Music Festival. At that time, the Song of the Earth, written by Shi Gang and sung at the music festival, was a sensation and was regarded as a counterattack work of national rock. As a result, the Wednesday Band was signed by Gem Records and released 2 albums that sold very well. The style also changed from pure rock and roll to a combination of pure and light, incorporating more musical elements. However, the band did not have a long time to shine. Their follow-up works lacked highlights, and they also had a dispute with Gem Records. After the termination of the contract, Gang took people to the south to develop. But every 72H Grass Music Festival, as long as the Wednesday band was invited, they would definitely participate. And this year, Gang and Wednesday brought their carefully prepared works to the festival. Chapter 322. Gang was in his 30s, but he looked older, like an uncle in his 40s. His beard was unkempt, and he had an indescribable decadent aura. However, compared to many of his dispirited peers who were equally unkempt, he looked quite different. His clothes and trousers were all starched and clean, and there were absolutely no thick stains on his clothes. His thick and strong fingernails were neatly trimmed, and his eyes were bright and full of spirit. No one would mistake him for a homeless man on the street. Gang frowned slightly at his companion's incitement, then he immediately smiled and said, "Don't say that. Lu Chen is a very capable singer. In terms of talent, he is much better than me." No one thought that Brother Gongzi, who had always been quite arrogant in the circle, would actually praise Lu Chen so much. Those people who ridiculed Lu Chen just now couldn't help but shut their mouths and showed an awkward expression. Gang acted as if he didn't see it and continued, "Yesterday, I chatted with Big Chin from the Bionics for a long time. Big Brother Chin told me a lot about Lu Chen. It is lucky to have someone like him appear in the pop music world." Gang had been in the music industry for more than 10 years. He had experienced prosperity and also experienced neglect. He had mingled in the mainstream and non-mainstream circles. He had mixed in the low-level and high-level circles. Naturally, he had his own views on life. He was very clear that in the domestic pop music world, the non-mainstream circle was as complicated as the mainstream circle. It was full of all kinds of people. Those depressed singers often had prejudice and even hatred towards the famous people in the mainstream circle. And it was often these people who were actually very envious of the glory of the mainstream circle. On the other hand, the mainstream circle's rejection and contempt towards the non-mainstream circle had always existed. The original intention of the 72H Grass Music Festival was to break the barrier between the two circles, to let more outstanding talents at the bottom stand out, and to let the mainstream circle pay attention to their existence. But it was not easy. Although there were many singers and bands that emerged through 72H and were signed by entertainment agents, the situation of the non-mainstream circle had not changed. The mutual estrangement and discrimination had never really been eliminated. To be honest, Gang, who was now wandering between the mainstream and non-mainstream circles, also looked down on the so-called young idols in the mainstream circle who had mediocre singing skills and completely relied on their good looks to make a living. But Lu Chen was definitely not that type. When the wandering band's Great Chin was mentioned, everyone fell silent. Regardless of whether they admitted it or not, the Bionics were now one of the most popular bands in the music industry. Qin Hanyang's background in Dechin had given him a very high reputation in the non-mainstream music industry. His single, In the Spring, had moved countless lower-class singers, and they all viewed Qin Hanyang as a big brother. Lu Chen happened to be the songwriter of In the Spring. His works also include Chasing Dreams with a Childlike Heart, Once You, Fly Higher, and other outstanding light rock songs. It was nothing more than his youth, handsomeness, TV series and relationship with Chin Fei that made people intentionally or unintentionally ignore his talent and strength in original music. Wasn't it very ignorant and laughable to look down on such a person? Many people's faces showed a bit of shame. Gang clapped his hands and said, "Actually, on the other hand, to be able to perform with a singer like Lu Chen on the same stage is also our luck. I suggest that we all bring out our best and not let others look down on us." This time, everyone's reaction was enthusiastic, and their morale rose again. Yes, Brother Gangzi is right. We can't let others look down on us. Gang smiled but didn't say anything. In his heart, he was thinking about the performance at night. He had never been a singer who was willing to be lonely. The ups and downs of life made him know how to cherish opportunities. Although Lu Chen was strong, it wasn't enough to make him lose the courage and confidence to sing. Similar to Shi Gang, those capable singers were also rubbing their palms together, eager to compete with each other. Although their fame and popularity couldn't be compared to a popular singer like Lu Chen, the 72H Grass Music Festival was different from ordinary performances. The audience who came here had a high degree of recognition for the non-mainstream circle, and they knew how to appreciate rock and roll and other niche types of music. In the history of 72H, there was no lack of famous singers who were booed to the point of losing face. The live band accompaniment, the unplugged features, and the authentic singing were a test of individual strength. Therefore, here, anyone could sing more popular than Lu Chen or other big-name singers. At this moment, Lu Chen didn't know that there were so many singers waiting to compete with him. He used more than half an hour to deal with the reporters and arrived backstage. Although it was called backstage, it was actually a simple tent that was temporarily set up. It was as long as a vegetable shed. There were already many singers and bands in the tent. Lu Chen saw several familiar faces. Brother Liao Jia. Among the singers invited to the 20th 72H Grass Music Festival, the one with the highest status was definitely not Lu Chen. It was Liao Jia. This disciple of Black Raven's lead singer and soul figure, Gao Yi, was once regarded as the last hope of national rock. Although he couldn't save national rock, he still had a high influence in the music industry. For the 72H Grass Music Festival, Liao Jia also had a very special identity. He was one of the founders. Of course, Liao Jia was only a special guest of the music festival, not a member of the organizing committee. Lu Chen and Liao Jia knew each other because of Qin Fei. The latter once pursued Qin Fei, but Qin Fei didn't have any feelings for him. In the end, Lu Chen, this young boy, won her heart. For this reason, Liao Jia deliberately looked for Lu Chen to compete in drinking, and the two became friends because of each other. Liao Jia's temper was a little impatient, but he had a good character. His popularity and reputation in the circle were even better. Therefore, even if Lu Chen's popularity was higher now, he still had to politely greet this person. "You're here too." Seeing Lu Chen, a smile appeared on Liao Jia's dark and thin face. He stood up from his seat, stepped forward, and patted Lu Chen's shoulder hard. He asked in a very polite manner, "What time does your performance start?" Lu Chen replied, "Around 8:30. Liao Jia smiled and said, "I'm at 7:30. I've wanted to compete with you for a long time. Now the opportunity has come." Lu Chen blushed with shame. "Brother Liao Jia, can we not joke?" "Who's joking with you?" Liao Jia glared and said, "If you lose to me, I will despise you." Chapter 323. The biggest feature of the 72H Grass Music Festival, which was also the most talked about, was that on its stage, celebrity status and fame were not important at all. The audience judged the singers based on their live performance. In other words, whether it was Liao Jia or Lu Chen, there was not much difference between them and other singers who were just performing on the street. Everyone was standing on the same starting line and competing on the same stage. Of course, famous singers would definitely get a lot more attention, but that was all. Liao Jia's challenge to Lu Chen originated from this. He was very serious. If a singer wanted to break through, 72H was undoubtedly a very suitable stage. He challenged Lu Chen, and other singers were also challenging him and Lu Chen. Liao Jia was a very proud person. He appreciated Lu Chen, but he would never be willing to be a foil to Lu Chen here. Bringing out all his strength was the recognition of the challengers. It was also the greatest respect for the audience. 72H was actually equivalent to a large-scale singing competition. The judges were tens of thousands of enthusiastic audiences who came to Wild Mountain Park. Many of them came from all over the country and traveled thousands of miles just for the sake of their feelings. Near noon, as the opening ceremony of the music festival was about to be held, more and more people gathered in the park. Looking from a high place, it was all black and there were also erected tents. Freedom, openness, and tolerance were the theme of the 72H Grass Music Festival. To participate in the 72H Grass Music Festival, there was no need to buy tickets, and there were no seats. Everyone could watch and leave, and it was not a problem to set up camp. However, due to the large number of audiences, near noon, the management of Wild Mountain Park began to restrict the audience's entry to prevent the number of people entering the park from exceeding the park's capacity. In addition, the large advertising LED screens on the east and west sides of the park would also synchronize the live broadcast of the main stage to play the role of diverting the audience and reducing the pressure on the venue. In addition, hundreds of security personnel and a large number of volunteers worked together to maintain the safety and order of the music festival. On the first Friday in March 2016, the weather was exceptionally sunny. The warm sun shone on Wild Mountain Park in early spring. The crowd was bustling, and the air was filled with the smell of music. At 12:00, 12 outdoor speakers placed in different parts of the park played passionate music at the same time. The blood-boiling singing fiercely impacted the eardrums of all the audience present. The crowd was shocked into silence for a moment before they let out earth-shattering cheers. The 20th 72H Grass Music Festival, a carnival for free pop music fans, was about to begin. The opening music was the classic rock composition of the Black Ravens, Tomorrow Reborn, that everyone was familiar with. This song, Tomorrow Reborn, is not only the famous work of the Black Ravens, but also the pinnacle of national rock. Almost all rock singers have covered and practiced it. As long as they heard this familiar melody, people would always think of the glorious days of the National Shake. However, his eyes were brimming with tears. Among the audience at the music festival, there were many old fans in their 40s and 50s. The rock and roll years that they had personally experienced had long been engraved in their memories. Therefore, when Tomorrow Reborn was played, they roared and sang along like hot-blooded youths. The atmosphere of the music festival was pushed to a climax at the beginning. Unlike those ordinary large-scale outdoor activities, the opening ceremony of the 72H Grass Music Festival was so simple that it couldn't be simpler. There were no flags fluttering, gongs and drums to cheer, no beautiful models to match the etiquette, no long speeches from big-bellied leaders to sponsors, and not even a host. On the big stage, the band for the first performance was already in place, and then Liao Jia appeared as the singer representative. This big brother of the pop music industry was wearing a black long-sleeved cotton shirt with the head of Gao Yi, the lead singer of the Black Ravens, and tattered jeans. His unruly long hair was braided, and his dark face looked solemn. He stood in front of the microphone and said to the thousands of audience below the stage, "Hello, everyone. I'm Liao Jia. I'm very happy to stand here with everyone again and enjoy the happiness that music brings to us. It's been 20 years. How are you all?" Liao Jia roared out the last sentence with all his strength, with a kind of hysterical vicissitudes and nostalgia. Good. Countless audiences responded loudly, and countless hands were raised high. Their shouts converged into a sea of sound waves, spreading in all directions and passing to every corner of Wild Mountain Park. After Liao Jia waited for the audience's emotions to erupt, he nodded and continued, "I won't say much else. You're here to listen to the song, and I'm here to sing. That's it." He grabbed the microphone and threw it to the lead singer of the band behind him. "Come on." The next moment, applause, screams, and whistles sounded one after another, and it didn't subside for a long time. In such a noisy atmosphere, the first band to participate in the 72H Grass Music Festival, which was also a local band in Beijing, the Engine Band, began to sing. Lasting for 72 hours, a gluttonous feast belonging to pop music fans officially began. At the same time, Lu Chen sat in the corner of the backstage area. He was watching the live video broadcast on the big screen in front of him while his mind wandered. The 72H Grass Music Festival did not have a live TV broadcast, but the copyright of the live online broadcast was bought by NetEase Music. The number of online audiences was quite astonishing. Anyone who cared about domestic original pop music would not miss this extraordinary performance. After experiencing the initial excitement, Lu Chen was now very calm. He recalled his musical journey all the way and always felt like he was still in a dream. Maybe it was because everything came too fast. Lu Chen, what are you thinking about? Just as Lu Chen was lost in thought, Wang Jing came over and sat down beside him and asked curiously. Lu Chen came to his senses, smiled at her and said, "Nothing, just thinking about our performance." Wang Jing said, "It's still early for us to go on stage. You're not nervous now, are you?" Lu Chen couldn't help laughing and shook his head. Wang Jing was embarrassed. "I'm a little nervous. I never thought I would have the opportunity to go on the 72H stage before." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Believe me, the stage that belongs to you will only be bigger in the future." Lu Chen didn't just say that. He built the Nirvana band as his own exclusive band. This band will accompany him to a more brilliant stage. 72H is just the beginning. Wang Jing bit her lip and said, "Thank you, Lu Chen." She has too many reasons to thank Lu Chen. Thank Lu Chen for helping her at her most difficult time. Thank Lu Chen for allowing the Nirvana band to survive and be reborn. Thank Lu Chen for investing a huge sum of money to let Wang Hui build the high-end recording studio he dreamed of. Thank Lu Chen, she hasn't properly and sincerely thanked Lu Chen. Lu Chen's contracts for the new Nirvana band, including her and Wang Hui, are very loose. There are no harsh restrictive clauses, no squeezing conditions, but the treatment given is higher than the average level of the industry. Lu Chen smiled and said, "You're welcome. We're friends." "Friends?" Wang Jing nodded silently. After a while, she stood up and said, "I'm going to practice." Lu Chen, "Okay." As soon as Wang Jing left, another man sat down beside him and handed him a can of beer. "This chick is interested in you. You can't let her down. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rough with you." Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Brother Liao Jia, you think too much." "It's better that I think too much." Liao Jia casually pulled open the ring and gulped down a few mouthfuls. Then, he said, "I told Old Tan that pretty boys are unreliable. Old Tan said that you're not, but I'll keep my eyes on you." Lu Chen shook his head, opened his beer, and clinked it with Liao Jia. "You'd better give up. I won't give you a chance to be rough, and even if you are rough, you're not my opponent." "I admire your confidence." Liao Jia clenched his left hand, and his knuckles creaked. "Tonight, I can beat you up and let you know what a real rock singer is like." Lu Chen was curious. "Brother Liao Jia, your new work tonight is pure rock. Are you scared?" Liao Jia gave him a contemptuous look. "Tell me first, what song are you going to sing?" Lu Chen replied without hesitation, "Rock." "Rock?" Liao Jia's eyes widened in disbelief. "You're going to sing rock?" Lu Chen was famous for folk songs, especially the campus folk songs he created, which made him widely popular among young people, and he was known as a folk music genius. Lu Chen also wrote many rock songs, but most of them were sung by others, such as the Bionics, North Needle, etc., and he only sang, "Chasing Dreams with a Childlike Heart." Liao Jia couldn't help but feel surprised that he was going to sing rock at the 72H Grass Music Festival instead of the folk songs he was best at. 72H wasn't a talent show or a recording studio. Singing on stage here was unplugged and untuned. Most of the audience were veteran rock music fans, and they would be able to hear the slightest loss of standard. Also, rock was not easy to sing. Lu Chen's voice was used to singing lyrical and nostalgic folk songs. Could he sing rock live, even if it was light rock? Liao Jia expressed his doubt. You're not deliberately trying to lose to me, right? Lu Chen returned a contemptuous look. You're not afraid, are you? Liao Jia suddenly felt hot blood rush to his head. Afraid of you, just don't cry when you lose. Lu Chen laughed. Okay, let's make a bet. Whoever loses will go back and treat us. Liao Jia slapped the stool fiercely. Let's do it. Chapter 324. There were many singers in the backstage area, and most of them were local people in the Beijing circle. Unlike the band singers from other places, local singers usually did not camp in Yeshan Park. They naturally formed a different circle from the foreign singers who stayed in the camp area outside. Of course, these two circles were not the kind that were clearly separated and minded their own business. There were people who knew each other and communicated with each other. Some were friends, and some were friends of friends. There was no antagonism. But there were still differences. For example, in the inner circle, in terms of fame and position, Liao Jia and Lu Chen are undoubtedly ranked in the top two. Beijing's local singers undoubtedly have more respect and attention to the two, unlike foreign singers, who hope to overturn them on the stage. Who was Liao Jia? He was a big brother in the domestic pop music industry, famous for his forthrightness. As a newly rising singer and songwriter, Lu Chen's experience was almost legendary in the Beijing singer circle. The story of his song, In the Spring, making the Bionics popular was still talked about. So, the conversation between the two attracted the attention of many people present, especially when Liao Jia was about to bet with Lu Chen. Everyone stopped watching the TV screen. There seemed to be a more exciting show here. Lu Chen noticed the eyes from around him and said with a smile, "It's not enough to invite me alone. If you want to invite me, you have to invite everyone together. What do you say?" The singers in the Beijing circle were still very respectful. Regardless of whether they heard it clearly or not, they all applauded loudly. Anyway, they wouldn't lose out by applauding. Liao Jia was so angry that he scolded, "Are you sure you can beat me? Dream on. There's no problem with inviting everyone. Whoever loses will have to open a table at Dihao. There will be as many tables as there are people. Everyone will have a share." This time, everyone understood. Suddenly, everyone smiled and praised loudly, "Brother Liao is mighty." Dihao was a famous five-star hotel in Beijing. Even a buffet there cost 388 renminbi per person. If they were to open a table, the cost would be even higher. There were at least 100 people in the backstage area, so they had to open at least 10 tables. Liao Jia looked at Lu Chen triumphantly. "You want to fight with me? I'm the one who can beat you." Lu Chen smiled. "Then it's a deal." He extended his hand to Liao Jia and high-fived him to seal the deal. Paw! Two palms clapped heavily together. It was considered an interesting event in this year's 72H Grass Music Festival. In fact, whether it was Liao Jia or Lu Chen, it was not a big deal for them to open 8 or 10 tables in the Imperial Hotel. They were just looking for some fun and excitement. So the topic quickly turned to the music festival itself. Liao Jia gulped down 2 cans of beer and, a little tipsy, began to comment on the singers and bands on stage. The content included the other party's style, works, singing skills, and so on. Among the people present, only he was qualified to do such a thing. Even Lu Chen wasn't qualified enough. Liao Jia was very outspoken. If he thought it was good, then it was not crude. If he thought it was not good, then it was not good. He did not use repetitive words or clichés that would not offend people, but his comments were quite sharp and on point. Lu Chen listened more than he spoke, and he also discussed a few words with Liao Jia. The surrounding singers were all attracted over. One of the most important purposes of the 72H Grass Music Festival was to communicate. To be able to listen to the live comments of this big shot in the music industry was definitely a rare experience for them. It was also an excellent opportunity to increase their experience and knowledge. The stones from other mountains could be used to attack Jade. By absorbing other people's strengths and comparing them to other people's weaknesses, one could completely improve oneself. As time passed, Liao Jia's talkative nature did not decrease. Some of the singers around him and Lu Chen went on stage and left, while others came in to fill in, forming a unique circle in the backstage area. The types of singers invited to the 72H Grass Music Festival were very complicated. Of course, there was no lack of existences to hold the stage. For example, today's big shots included Liao Jia and Lu Chen, as well as a few famous local singers. However, whether it was Liao Jia or Lu Chen, or a few others, their order of appearance was quite late. According to the time, Liao Jia would go on stage to sing at around 7:30 in the evening. Lu Chen was an hour away from him. However, this time was definitely not fixed. 72H was different from a normal concert. First of all, it was very long. Secondly, the time when the singer would go on stage was very variable. This was mainly reflected in the return stage. On this stage, even if a singer or a band was completely unknown and nobody knew their name, as long as they produced sufficiently wonderful and outstanding works, or displayed superhuman singing talent, they would be recognized and loved by the live audience, and they would even request to return to the stage. The audience's evaluation was the only standard to measure a singer's performance. The longer and more enthusiastic the audience's applause, the louder and more impassioned the cheers, and the more sincere and intense the request to return stage, then the more honor this singer would win. Although 72H did not give out awards, and there were no trophies or bonuses, this was definitely a place where one could become famous overnight. Therefore, the singers and bands that could go on stage would basically all display their full strength. Among the more than 10 singers and 4 bands that had already appeared, there was a singer and a band that stood out and received high praise from Liao Jia. Especially the female singer, Mu Mu. Her self-played and sung "Do" made Liao Jia slap the table and praise it. At the same time, she also received crazy cheers from the audience. The audience used their applause to ask her to return stage and sing a second song. Liao Jia said to Lu Chen, "You should sign her." Lu Chen was speechless. He also thought that this female singer named Mu Mu was very strong, but currently, his studio did not have any requests to sign her. If he took too big a step, it was easy to pull his balls. Moreover, even if he did not talk about the music festival, there were too many capable singers in Beijing that no one wanted to sign. If Lu Chen's studio released the news, there would definitely be a lot of talents coming over to be taken in. Therefore, even if he missed out on this Mu Mu, there was nothing to regret. However, regarding Lu Chen ignoring his opinion, Liao Jia expressed great disdain. "You must be afraid that your husband will be jealous, so you don't dare to sign this female singer." He humphed and said, "Your husband is pretty good." Lu Chen was very speechless about this. With great difficulty, it was finally 7 p.m., and it was finally Liao Jia's turn to go on stage. The reason why the time was brought forward and not delayed was because there were a few singers who gave up at the last minute or applied to adjust the time on stage. This kind of situation was very common in music festivals. As soon as Liao Jia went on stage, he immediately received a warm welcome from the audience. He did not disappoint, and brought out his own original song for the first song, Memorial Day. A pure-blooded national rock work. Chapter 325. Liao Jia was a singer with a lot of character. At first glance, he did not look like a famous singer at all. Instead, he looked like the kind of gangster that was commonly seen in Hong Kong films. When he had nothing to do, he would sit in an old tea house and drink tea and snacks, while secretly commanding a group of underlings to collect protection fees from everywhere. In the circle, Liao Jia was also recognized as a forthright and loyal person. His aura was very unique, and when people faced him, they would involuntarily feel a trace of awe. But when he appeared on the stage with a guitar, he was a completely different Liao Jia. This Liao Jia was a singer, a rock singer, a veteran who could give up everything for his ideals. When he strummed the steel strings and opened his mouth to roar the first line of the lyrics, the thousands of audience around the stage all boiled up, as if a ladle of cold water had been poured on boiling oil, exploding with a sizzling sound. In memory of the frivolity of youth, in memory of the dead love, in memory of the everlasting friendship, Liao Jia used this original song, Memorial Day, to sing his longing and nostalgia for the past years, as well as his anger and confusion towards the strange and dazzling world. The powerful rhythm and melody, the rough but real lyrics, coupled with his unique hoarse roar, made the audience feel as if they had returned to that period of rock and roll. They sang randomly with Liao Jia, roared loudly, shouted together, and commemorated together. In the backstage area, all the singers, including Lu Qin, stood up and paid tribute to the rock veteran who had never really given in. Many fans once said that Liao Jia, who wrote Ivy House and Old Guy, had fallen, and that he had turned his back on rock and roll in the declining era of the country and chose to compromise with the market. However, at this moment, Liao Jia, who was standing on the stage, was still that angry young man in a black t-shirt and blue jeans, with long hair, who roared his dream of freedom with a guitar and singing. The atmosphere of the music festival was instantly pushed to a climax. The cheers and applause of the audience were like a tide, each wave higher than the last, and countless people were shouting his name. Liao Jia. This name was also a symbol of the past era. By the time he finished singing Memorial Day, Liao Jia was already sweating profusely and panting. Time was merciless, and the former rock and roll youth was now old. His addiction to cigarettes and alcohol had greatly damaged his health, making it impossible for him to return to his peak state. Just like Memorial Day. It was undeniable that Liao Jia's new rock and roll work was very tasty. It was 100% Chinese rock and roll, but whether it was the melody or the lyrics, there was not much novelty. It could not be compared with classics such as Ivy House or Old Guy. Although the audience was excited by Liao Jia's performance, they were obviously not completely satisfied. Old Man. No one knew who started it, but it soon became the main melody of the scene, Old Man. The audience wanted to listen to the old song that embodied the feelings of the country again. As expected, Liao Jia satisfied everyone's request and sang Old Guy again. Old Guy was written in the late 1990s. It was a classic work released by Liao Jia when the national rock scene was dispirited. At that time, this album was regarded as the last glory of the national rock scene. Since then, Liao Jia had no works that could be compared with it. Almost 20 years had passed, but the charm of the song had not faded. Instead, it had become more and more intoxicating as time passed. However, Liao Jia's state of mind when he sang the song again was different. There was too much vicissitudes and helplessness. Instead, the scene quieted down. Listening to the familiar melody and listening to Liao Jia's voice, which was no longer young, many old fans could not help but shed tears and sing along silently or softly. Romance was always blown away by the wind and rain. No matter how unwilling they were, the national rock scene was already a thing of the past. The 72H Grass Music Festival could not save pure rock and roll, just as Liao Jia could not save the national rock scene. At this moment, many fans forgave Liao Jia's betrayal of rock and roll from the bottom of their hearts. It was enough to have that period of time. Liao Jia felt the emotions of the audience at the scene and was deeply infected by it. In the end, his eyes also turned red. After playing the last note, Liao Jia bowed deeply with his guitar. He used this way to thank these most lovely, most sincere, most loyal fans. Go! 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 The next moment, the same shouts rang out like a tsunami. This was a request for Liao Jia to return to the stage. According to the rules of 72H, whether it was a singer or a band, they could only sing a maximum of 2 songs on stage. However, if they performed well enough and were requested by the audience to return, they could sing 1 more song. The audience of 72H was very picky. It was not easy to get the approval of most of them. From noon until now, there were only a few singers and bands who were requested to return. After singing 2 high-intensity songs in a row, Liao Jia was not only sweating, but even his cotton shirt was soaked with sweat. However, he did not show the slightest fatigue. Instead, he was in high spirits and his face was glowing, especially his pair of eyes that were amazingly bright. No one would refuse a fan's request to return, and Liao Jia was no exception. The 3rd song he sang was also his famous song, Ivy House. This rock and roll work was not as intense as Old Guy. It was more nostalgic, and the melody and rhythm leaned towards a light rock and roll style. It was very suitable as the closing song. Liao Jia's voice was a little hoarse, but Ivy House was still sung with such flavor that the fans at the scene were intoxicated. In the end, although there were still many fans who continued to shout, "Go!" trying to keep this rock and roll veteran. However, Liao Jia did not break the rules of 72H. He bowed repeatedly and thanked them before leaving the stage. He left the stage to the newcomer. When Liao Jia returned to the backstage area, all the singers applauded together to express their respect. Liao Jia smiled and cupped his hands in return. "Thank you, thank you." He strode back to Lu Chen's side and sat down in his original position. He reached out to wipe the sweat on his forehead and asked impatiently, "How is it? Do you still have confidence?" His expression was completely like a naughty child who had just obtained a big slingshot and was showing it off to his friends. Lu Chen smiled and gave him a thumbs up. "Brother Liao is mighty." Lu Chen sincerely admired Liao Jia's youthful spirit. Some singers sang better as they got older. Liao Jia was obviously such a singer. It was really good to listen to him live. "Don't give me that," Liao Jia glared at him, and his eyes dimmed a lot. "Actually, I know that the first song I wrote wasn't that good. Now I can only rely on my past achievements to get popular." Lu Chen tried to comfort him. "Brother Liao, you can't say that. You don't have to comfort me." Liao Jia shook his head. He patted Lu Chen's shoulder and wiped it. "The future of the music industry belongs to you guys." Lu Chen really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After Liao Jia finished and Lu Chen went on stage, there were 3 singers and a band in the middle. Among them, the 3 singers who went on stage after Liao Jia were not famous. The quality of the works they brought was mediocre. Although they sang very hard, they didn't get much applause and recognition from the audience. The style of the 72H Grass Music Festival was like this. If you didn't perform well on stage, then don't expect the audience to give you face. There was no live support here. If the singer asked the fans for applause, they would only get boos. But the band Wednesday, who was in front of Lu Chen, made people's eyes light up. Wednesday was quite famous in the rock circle. The lead singer, Shi Gang, was a very good singer and lyricist. He created a song, Earth Ballad, which was once a hit at the 72H Grass Music Festival and became a rock star at that time. But Wednesday didn't become popular in the music industry for long. After releasing 2 albums, there weren't many new works. In recent years, they had almost disappeared. This year, Wednesday made a comeback with new works. There was no doubt that they had prepared carefully. One was City of Loneliness, and the other was Hurt. These two light rock works, whether it was the melody or the lyrics, were remarkable. The lead singer, Gang, performed these two works very well and sang with enough flavor. So far, there were more than 100 original works that were brought out by the singers in this year's music festival. City of Loneliness and Hurt were among the best works. Especially the latter song, Hurt, was even more wonderful. The climax of the chorus made the fans' hearts rise and fall. Applause rang out one after another. Without any suspense, after the two original works were finished, Wednesday also received the treatment of returning to the stage. The returning song was the song that made them famous, Earth Ballad. 10 years to sharpen a sword. Liao Jia, who was watching the scene from the backstage area, said to Lu Qin, "Gangxi has really matured." Lu Qin asked, "Are you friends with him?" Liao Jia shook his head and said, "Not really. I used to know him and chatted a little." Wednesday was originally in Beijing, but then they went to the deep sea. I heard that they didn't do well. Now they definitely want to come back. Liao Jia's tone was very matter-of-fact. The center of the domestic pop music industry had always been in Beijing. Singers and bands that didn't develop in Beijing, no matter how well they did, were not an important part of the circle. The others, whether it was in Shanghai or the deep sea, belonged to the periphery. Therefore, if a singer, including a band, wanted to realize their ambitions and dreams, then Beijing was the only choice. 72H Grass Music Festival was actually a stage for newcomers to realize their dreams. Wednesday had come and gone. Now that they came back, they came prepared and brought out good works. "Are you under any pressure?" Liao Jia smiled and asked Lu Qin, "Next, it's your turn to go on stage." "Yes." Lu Qin had already stood up and said, "But what I'm least afraid of is pressure." If this was a challenge, he was happy to accept any challenge. This was Lu Qin's confidence. Chapter 326. Looking at the countless cheering audiences below the stage, Gang, the lead singer of the Wednesday band, was thrilled. For more than a decade, the fate of him and the Wednesday band could be described as ups and downs. When he became famous in 72H and joined Gem Records, he thought he had embarked on a bright road to stardom. However, there were many contradictions within the band and with the signing company, which consumed too much of Gang's energy. In the end, he had to take several members to the south and stay away from the mainstream circle. However, the idea of returning to Beijing had always been in Gang's heart. He just wanted to make a comeback. He must come back in style and let the name of the Wednesday band become loud in the pop music world again. Now Gang's goal had been half achieved. The two original works had undoubtedly been recognized by the audience. Their applause was the best proof. He couldn't help but clench his fists. After bowing to express his gratitude, he walked off the stage with his team members. But Gang didn't go far. He stood at the bottom of the steps. Because he knew that the next singer was Lu Qin, a popular star in the music world. Gang first heard the name Lu Qin in July last year. At that time, a new singer came to the bar where he sang. The latter's first song was called In the Spring. Gang still remembered the first time he heard In the Spring. His whole body was numb, the blood in his body rushed to the top of his head, and he was so excited that he wanted to cry. This song was so well written. And the author of this song was Lu Qin, a very young singer and songwriter. Later, he gradually learned about many of Lu Qin's works, including Lu Qin's album, You Who Sat Next to Me. Gang admired Lu Qin's creative talent. When he learned that Lu Qin would also participate in 72H and would appear at the same time as him, he felt excited. A singer must challenge himself and his opponent to continue to improve. Most importantly, Gang was very confident in his work. He believed that the Wednesday band, which had been rebuilt by him, would not lose to anyone. On the contrary, he was looking forward to Lu Chen's appearance. He couldn't wait to know what new works the latter would come up with. Folk song. Or light rock. Or something else. If he could defeat Lu Chen on this stage, then his return with Wednesday would be perfect. Just as Gang was in a state of confusion, Lu Chen took the Nirvana band to the big stage. Everyone's eyes were focused on him. The arrangement for the first day of the 72H Music Festival was a bit special. At this time in the evening, Liao Jia, Wednesday's band, and Lu Chen were arranged to appear consecutively. While creating a climax atmosphere, it also allowed the audience to naturally intuitively compare the three. Liao Jia's performance was wonderful, and his strength was worthy of his reputation. Wednesday was a surprise for the band. It was the highlight of the first day's performance, and its original works were of high quality. So what will Lu Chen, who has just appeared on the stage, bring to the audience? Now, the audience's appetite had been big. Although Lu Chen was very famous and had the reputation of being a musical genius, he might not necessarily have a wonderful performance. There were not just one or two celebrities who had lost face on 72H. And the audience's expectations and doubts have imperceptibly condensed into a huge pressure imposed on Lu Chen. Many of the fans who came to the 72H scene were born in the 60s and 70s. Some of them didn't like Lu Chen and thought that he was not much different from the so-called fresh meat in the current entertainment industry. Speaking of this impression, to a large extent, was caused by Autumn in My Heart. Even if they hadn't watched this popular TV series, it was inevitable to see Lu Chen's name in entertainment news and online topics. In addition, the recent rumors of Lu Chen and Chen Fei's love affair with a younger brother had spread far and wide, so some people associated him with idol stars and ignored him as the original creator of In the Spring, Fly Higher, and other works. So if Lu Chen's performance on the scene was not good, there must be people who would take pleasure in his misfortune. 72H was a world of strength. Lu Chen felt the pressure from the challengers and the audience, and he was fearless. Lu Chen stood here today, not to prove anything or show off to others, but to realize the dream he once had. He had no urgency to become famous, and he didn't need to challenge anyone. There was really no pressure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lu Chen. Facing the microphone, Lu Chen first made a simple introduction. With me is the Nirvana band. Wang Jing and others got up and saluted, and sparse applause sounded under the stage. No one had heard of the band's name, and the applause was purely polite. Some people were screaming, those were Lu Chen's die-hard fans. Lu Chen didn't care and continued, "Today I will bring you the first work, called Free as the Wind." As soon as his voice fell, the prelude played by the bass suddenly sounded and was transmitted to everyone's ears through the 6 pairs of high-quality outdoor sound systems arranged at the scene. The next moment, the intense drumbeat hit people's eardrums, making people's blood boil. "I'm as free as the wind, just like your gentleness can't be retained. You push away my outstretched hands, you go, you better not look back, endless drifting, the desire for freedom, bear all the vicissitudes alone. I give you gentleness, but you refuse to accept it, I give you the real feeling of my hands, I give you the long memory of freedom, I give you everything, but I can't stay. I'm as free as the wind." As one of the most popular singers in 72H, Lu Chen's work has always been one of the hot topics in the small circle. Many people think that he will sing his famous works. This is the safest way to do it. After all, a person's inspiration is always limited. No singer can guarantee that their works will be excellent. If they don't get the fans' approval with their new works, it will undoubtedly be a blow to Lu Chen's rising reputation. Singing his own original songs is not shameful, and it is safe enough. It must be known that 72H fans are very picky. Lu Chen solved the suspense in many people's hearts with a brand new work. The name of this song is Free as the Wind. Simple and straightforward lyrics, without any esoteric and complex connotations or metaphors. Even without the lyrics prompt on the background screen, anyone can hear it clearly. This is the consistent characteristic of Lu Chen's light rock works. And the melody is still so wonderful and outstanding. It's just that in terms of style, Free as the Wind doesn't have the vicissitudes of In the Spring, the passion of Fly Higher, and it doesn't have the loneliness of Blue Lotus. This song is unruly to the bone. Note, Free as the Wind, lyricist/composer, Su Wei. Chapter 327. Many of the singers and bands that participated in the 72H Grass Music Festival had the desire to achieve their dreams. They stood on this stage that advocated freedom and tolerance and did their best to show their talent and energy to the audience. Because among the tens of thousands of audience, there was no lack of representatives from entertainment agencies. Once they were selected by a powerful company, it was possible for them to soar into the sky and step into the glittering mainstream circle. It was the efforts of these singers and bands that made 72H have always been full of vitality and become a very influential event in the domestic pop music industry. But not all singers came to be famous. For example, Liao Jia. Although 72H's stage was very big, it was able to invite him to the stage without paying any price because Liao Jia had deep feelings for this music festival. Feelings were priceless. As for Lu Chen, the reason why Lu Chen appeared on 72H's stage was to fulfill his wish. So he didn't have any pressure. He sang because he wanted to. This song, Free Like the Wind, sang his unruly and carefree nature. It was his understanding of his own life. Perhaps Free Like the Wind wasn't as classic as In the Spring, Blue Lotus, and Chasing Dreams with a Pure Heart, but it was precisely because of Lu Chen's carefreeness that he performed this song almost perfectly. He hugged his guitar and faced the tens of thousands of audience members. He sang in the wind and roared to his heart's content. Endless drifting, the desire for freedom. Bear all the vicissitudes alone. I give you gentleness, but you refuse to accept it, I'm free like the wind. The simple lyrics and melody were repeated twice, each time with a different feeling. And now, the audience very naturally and comfortably accepted this song. It wasn't heavy, extreme, or angry, but it sang to the bottom of people's hearts and sang the feelings of youth. Who didn't have a youth? I'm free like the wind, just like your gentleness that can't be held back. When Lu Chen sang the same passage for the third time, there were already many audience members singing along with the synchronized lyrics displayed on the big screen on the stage, I'm free like the wind. There was no distinction between the stage and the audience. The atmosphere of the music festival was pushed to a new climax. This was the live resonance that many singers who participated in 72H dreamed of. Lu Chen had done it easily and casually. In the backstage area, Liao Jia, who heard the climax of the chorus, waved his fist and applauded hard. This little brother of his was not just for show. He was going to lose tonight's bet. On the other hand, Shi Gang, who was standing beside the stage, had a bitter smile on his face. He had spent 10 years sharpening his sword to come up with a work that he had poured his blood, sweat, and tears into, hoping to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. However, whether it was City of Loneliness or Wound, they paled in comparison to Lu Chen's song. Shi Gang wasn't deluded enough to think that his work wasn't worse than Lu Chen's. Lining up before Lu Chen was such a mistake. After Lu Chen's first work, Free as the Wind, was sung, the whole audience applauded, mixed with sharp whistles. Even those fans who still had prejudices against him had to admit that this was a very good work. It didn't meet the requirements of a classic, but on today's stage, it was absolutely outstanding. Coming up with such a work also proved Lu Chen's sincerity. To put it bluntly, a singer and songwriter like him could sell hundreds of thousands of yuan with a casual song. And there was no remuneration for 72H's performance, whether it was a big shot in the circle or an unknown singer. Thank you, everyone. Lu Chen bowed to the audience, then turned to the members of the Nirvana band behind him and said, "Thank you, Nirvana band." Wang Jing waved her left hand at him, and Chen Jiong raised the drum stick in his hand and made a fancy gesture in response. The 4 young members of the Nirvana band were very excited. It was their first time to participate in 72H's performance. Performing in front of such a large audience, they all went all out just now. Although the current Nirvana band is far from being compared with those veteran bands, and their skills and perception of music are not deep enough, it is precisely because they are young that they have unlimited growth potential. Lu Chen continued, "The second song is also a new song, and it's also the first time I've performed it in public." Hearing Lu Chen's words, many audiences became excited. Originally, many people thought that Lu Chen would bring a new work and an old song to everyone in the evening, just like Liao Jia, but they didn't expect him to come up with 2 new works. It was really an unexpected surprise. Generally speaking, if a singer of 72H comes up with 2 works, the second one is often stronger than the first one. The name of this song is "Free as a Dream." When the name of the song appeared on the big screen on the stage, countless audiences couldn't help but let out a cry of surprise. At first, they thought they saw it wrong or the backstage computer control display was wrong, but when they took a closer look, they found that it was really called "Free as a Dream," which was only 1 word different from Lu Chen's first song. What kind of joke was this? For a time, there was a lot of discussion under the stage, and everyone didn't understand what Lu Chen was selling. 2 songs, only 1 word different. Lu Chen didn't explain and made a gesture to the Nirvana band. The prelude sounded. "Will you still miss me, my dearest friend, when I decide to let go of everything, go up the road to freedom? Will you still be with me, my most missed family, have said goodbye to yesterday, driving to the road to the future?" The first part was mainly accompanied by guitar, and the inquiring lyrics with a trace of sadness and melancholy, which were sung by Lu Chen, unfolded to the people a picture of parting. But then the unfolding chorus entered the climax, and the melody suddenly became passionate and enthusiastic. "I want to be free as a dream, strong as the sky, on this winding road, experience the meaning of life." As Lu Chen raised the scale, the theme of the work was suddenly sublimated, majestic and full of the brave attitude of pursuing freedom. The audience at the scene had a feeling of being hit in the heart in an instant, and at the same time, it inspired everyone's yearning for freedom and the pursuit and desire of a better life. Because the road has a boundless heart, temporarily put down the busy and hurried life, to experience the pleasure of galloping freely in the wilderness, to untie the heavy shackles of the mind, and to find the true self. Life needs to be settled. Occasionally emptying yourself, maybe you can find a more reasonable explanation. Who knows, we are still on the road, let that free heart be willfully exiled. The realization that this song brings to people is far more than that. "Will you still be with me, my most missed family, have said goodbye to yesterday, driving to the road to the future. I want to be free as a dream, tolerant as the earth, on this difficult road of exile, light up the light of life. Freedom, spontaneity, pioneer, creation." This is the theme of the 72H Grass Music Festival, and the spirit of freedom has always run through the rise and decline of national rock. These 2 works created by Lu Chen in the name of freedom have undoubtedly touched the deepest and truest feelings of the fans and singers at the scene. Whether it is "Free as the Wind" or "Free as a Dream," they are not the kind of rock works in the pure sense, but the spirit of freedom contained in these 2 songs is beyond the reach of many pure rock songs. This has made many people reflect on whether the so-called rebellious, extreme, and even anti-social rock spirit they have been pursuing is precisely one of the important reasons for the decline of national rock. Rock songs can also be free, progressive, and sunny. Perhaps this is the reason why Lu Qin brought these two works to 72H. Thinking of his other works such as In the Spring and Blue Lotus, many singers fell into deep thought. At this moment, all the light gathered on Lu Qin's body. He is like the wind, like a dream, free and unruly. Lost. Liao Jia, who was in the backstage area, laughed and turned to the singers present and said, "Tomorrow night, come to the Di Hao Hotel. I'll treat everyone to a drink." Brother Liao naturally kept his word. He couldn't do anything shameless. If he lost to Lu Qin, he had to treat. He was willing. Next to the stage, Shi Gang shook his head helplessly. There is no comparison, there is really no comparison. He is convinced. After singing the second song, Free as a Dream, Lu Qin took a step back and then bowed deeply. Fine beads of sweat seeped out of his forehead, glimmering under the illumination of the light. His eyes were bright and full of spirit. Applause, warm, sincere, and enthusiastic applause, like a spring thunder, and then endless, set off an invisible storm at the scene of Wild Mountain Park. Free as the wind, free as a dream, Lu Qin proved his strength with these two freedom songs and conquered tens of thousands of fans at the scene. The applause he received was well-deserved. Good. Sing one more song. Many fans shouted loudly and waved their arms with all their might, trying to attract the attention of Lu Qin on the stage. Go! Someone roared, and then others seemed to wake up from a dream and followed suit, shouting, "Go! Go! Go! Go!" All the voices converged into one voice, which was the voice that urged Lu Qin to stay and begged him to return to the stage. Lu Qin stopped and bowed again, "Thank you." It was not the first time he had felt the enthusiasm of fans, nor was it the first time he had enjoyed the cheers from fans, nor was it the first time he had been asked to stay by fans. However, here, at the scene, with tens of thousands of fans on the scene, it was so different. They were true fans of pop music. The things they stuck to and persisted in might not be understood by others, but their love was so sincere. To be able to get their recognition, love, and pursuit was a real glory. Note, Free as a Dream lyricist/composer, Wang Feng. Chapter 328. At the request of thousands of fans, Lu Qin returned to sing the third song. But instead of coming up with a new work, he sang a folk song of his own, The Bright Times of Youth. Because the mood of the audience has been stirred up by his first two songs, if he sings that kind of intense and high-spirited work again, it is hard to say what unnecessary trouble it will cause. It should be known that there are at least 20,000 fans gathered in Wild Mountain Park. Although not all of them gathered in front of the big stage, it is still quite an amazing number. Once a fan loses control of his emotions and does something irrational, it is easy to cause serious consequences. That's what no one wants to see. Paying attention to controlling the emotions of fans is also one of the requirements of the Music Festival Organizing Committee for singers. The soothing melody and nostalgic folk song undoubtedly appeases the fans, calms down their boiling blood and makes their emotions return to normal. In fact, this is very comfortable to listen to, like the comfort after a climax, with the pleasure of tension and relaxation. After singing this song, The Bright Times of Youth, Lu Qin left with the Nirvana band and the applause of the whole audience, leaving the stage to the latecomers. The night is long and the music carnival has just begun, but for Lu Qin, his performance is over. Of course, his former wishes and dreams have also been fully satisfied. Good singing. Backstage, Liao Jia clenched his fist and punched Lu Qin on the shoulder. The song is good. I lost. Lu Qin touched his nose and said, Brother Liao Jia, actually what? Liao Jia's eyes widened like copper bells and he asked angrily, do you want to say that I'm the kind of person who doesn't keep his word? All right. Lu Qin was convinced. Liao Jia turned angry into happy, patted him on the shoulder and said, "Tomorrow night, D How Hotel, you all come." He said the last sentence to the members of Nirvana. Wang Jing and others felt flattered. This is Liao Jia, a real idol-level big brother. Then the singers in the backstage area, whether they knew each other or not, came up to shake hands and say hello to Lu Qin. After witnessing Lu Chen's strength with their own eyes, their attitudes changed greatly. Of course, the excuse that everyone used to get close to Lu Qin was to thank Lu Qin for helping them earn a big meal. The place where Liao Jia treated them was the 5-star Imperial Grand Hotel. For a time, the atmosphere in the backstage area was very harmonious. "Hello, Lu Chen." Just at this time, a man in his 30s strode in front of Lu Qin and extended his hand to him. Lu Qin quickly reached out and shook hands with him. "Hello, Brother Gongzi." The man was the lead singer of Wednesday's band, Shi Gang. He was surprised. "You know me?" Lu Qin smiled and said, "Brother Liao Jia told me." Liao Jia, who was chatting with others next to him, turned his head and said to Shi Gang, "Gang Z, let's go for a drink tonight." Shi Gang quickly replied, "Okay, Brother Liao." Whether it was in the past or now, Liao Jia was the person he looked up to and admired. Liao Jia invited him to go out for a drink, which was really giving him face. The two originally didn't have such a friendship. Liao Jia smiled and said, "You also sang well tonight." Shi Gang's face was red, not because of shyness, but because of excitement. After calming down, he asked Lu Qin, "Lu Qin, can I talk to you?" Lu Qin nodded and said, "Of course." The two sat down in the corner backstage, and the others didn't disturb them. Shi Gang rubbed his hands and asked, "Lu Qin, I want to ask, did your studio sign anyone?" "Sign anyone?" Lu Qin was stunned. "What do you mean?" Shi Gang said calmly, "If you are willing, I want to sign Wednesday's band to your studio." Lu Qin was stunned. He didn't expect that Shi Gang actually wanted to go to his studio. Wednesday's band was not a nobody. Although it had long been outdated, it was still quite important in the eyes of some fans. Moreover, tonight's performance was very good, and there was a trend of a comeback. He believed that many entertainment agencies would be happy to sign such a mature band with a foundation. Lu Qin was regretful. "Brother Gang, I'm really sorry, but I don't have the idea of signing anyone for the time being." He had just acquired Nirvana Studios and already had a band. In addition, the focus of his work was there, so it was impossible to sign another band, even if the other party had great potential. Shi Gang was not surprised by Lu Chen's refusal. He just wanted to give it a try. Today's Shi Gang was no longer the artistic youth of the past. The ups and downs of life made him deeply understand the importance of opportunities. Whether it was for himself or for his brothers, he had to be responsible. This time, Shi Gang was going to take Wednesday's band to take root in Beijing again, and then he would not leave. In his opinion, Lu Qin's studio was a good choice. Shi Gang had an understanding of Lu Qin. He was very clear about the latter's creative talent and ability to create stars. If he could get the support of this musical genius, Wednesday's band would have a great future. Speaking of which, Shi Gang was also called a musical genius, but compared with Lu Qin, he was really far behind. That's a pity. I hope there will be opportunities for cooperation in the future. Shi Gang said very sincerely. Lu Chen's heart moved and he said, "Brother Gang, let me recommend you a record company." Shi Gang's eyes lit up. "Which company?" Lu Qin said, "Flying Stone Records." He felt that the style and positioning of Flying Stone Records should be very suitable for Wednesday's band. Of course, Shi Gang knew Flying Stone Records, but he said with a wry smile, "I'm afraid Flying Stone Records won't look up to us, right?" Flying Stone Records used to be the leader of the domestic record industry. It once declined, but now it has revived and restored some of its peak strength. At present, it is also one of the big shots in the industry. In contrast, the weight of Wednesday's band was inevitably insufficient. They were more willing to train newcomers. Lu Qin said with a smile, "I have a good relationship with Lin Jijie, the music director of Flying Stone Records. I'll introduce you to each other. How do you know if there's a chance if you don't try?" Shi Gang thanked Lu Qin, "Thank you." In fact, he had nothing to do with Lu Qin. It was the first time the two met. Lu Qin was willing to help introduce Lin Jijie, which really made him very grateful. In the entertainment industry, human relations were as thin as paper, and it was rare to have warm-hearted people. Lu Qin simply took out his phone. "I'll call brother Lin now and see if he has time." The phone was quickly connected, and Lin Jijie was really free in the evening. So, Lu Qin simply called Liao Jia, Wednesday's band and his own Nirvana band to go out to find a place to have a midnight snack, and by the way, introduce Lin Jijie. Leaving Wild Mountain Park, the 72H Grass Music Festival was already a thing of the past for Lu Qin. Chapter 329. When Lu Qin returned to Zicheng it was already after 11 o'clock in the evening. This midnight snack lasted more than 2 hours. Liao Jia deserved to be a famous glutton in the circle. The nearby places were all first-class private restaurants, and more than a dozen people just made up a table. Lin Jijie also came, not only because of Lu Qin, but also because he and Liao Jia were friends, and it was just a chance to meet. As for Shi Gang, Lin Jijie was still very interested. At present, Flying Stone Records was expanding its strength, and it had signed a lot of newcomers. Like Wednesday's band, as long as they had good works, they could also enter their sites. Of course, such a thing as signing people was not something that Lin Jijie could decide alone. It needed further investigation and discussion, because it involved a lot of specific details. For Shi Gang, it was already very lucky to be able to get in touch with Lin Jijie, a senior executive of Flying Stone Records. No matter whether he could be signed to Flying Stone Records in the end, he owed Lu Qin a big favor. So everyone was very happy in the evening. During the dinner, Lu Qin was forced to drink by several big brothers. In the end, he asked Wang Jing to drive him back. She was the only one who didn't drink. According to Lu Qin's instructions, he drove to Building 7. Wang Jing asked, "Do you want me to send you up?" Lu Qin rubbed his eyebrows and said, "No, you can drive the car away. Just drive it back to the studio tomorrow." Although he drank a lot of wine, he was not drunk enough to go home. Wang Jing hesitated for a moment, nodded and said, "Okay, see you tomorrow." "Thank you." Lu Qin smiled at her and said, "It's late. Drive carefully and slowly." With that, Lu Qin opened the door and got out of the car. Wang Jing watched his figure disappear from her sight. She sighed softly and then drove away. Swiping the door card to open the elevator, Lu Qin went straight to the 17th floor. When he got home, he took out his keys and opened the door. After entering, he turned on the lights. Squinting his eyes to adjust to the bright light, Lu Qin took off his thick coat and threw it on the sofa. "Why are you back so late?" Just as he was about to go to the bathroom to take a hot shower, he suddenly heard a pleasant voice. Lu Qin couldn't help but jump in fright. He instinctively turned his head and saw a beautiful woman standing at the door of the master bedroom, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Chen Feier. Lu Qin felt like he was bungee jumping. He quickly walked over and asked, "When did you come back?" As he asked, Lu Qin opened his arms and hugged her hard in his arms. Chen Feier was wearing a set of pink cotton pajamas from Hello Kitty. Her sleepy appearance had the cuteness of a young girl. When Lu Qin smelled her unique fragrance, all the fatigue in his body disappeared. Since the last time they returned to Beijing, the two hadn't had a good time together. 2 days ago, Chen Fei was shooting a commercial in another city. He didn't expect to give him a big surprise at night. Lu Chen couldn't help but kiss her on the face. It felt really good. Hugging her was like hugging the whole world. There was nothing else to ask for. Chen Fei woke up and said with a smile, "I just came back at night and ran over here." She suddenly wrinkled her little nose and sniffed. Her pretty face showed a look of disgust. "How much wine did you drink?" Lu Chen smiled and lowered his head to kiss her lips. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. The two had just broken through their relationship not long ago. Now was the time for adultery. And Lu Chen was definitely a very, very strong man. However, before he could taste the fragrance, his mouth was blocked by Chen Fei's hand. The latter said coquettishly, "It stinks. Don't pollute me. Go brush your teeth and take a bath." Lu Chen could only let go of her hand. "Good boy," Chen Fei said with a smile, "I'll wait for you in bed." She said this sentence softly, and her eyes were so charming that water was about to drip out. She was extremely charming. Chen Fei was already a mature woman. After experiencing human affairs, she exuded an amazing charm. That kind of amorous feeling from the inside out made her charm increase exponentially. The so-called natural beauty was nothing more than this. Lu Chen was dumbfounded. After a while, he couldn't help but roar and rushed into the bathroom like a whirlwind. After brushing his teeth and taking a bath as fast as he could, Lu Chen put on a bathrobe and returned to the bedroom. The ceiling light in the bedroom had already been turned off. Only the small frosted table lamp on the bedside table was still emitting a dim yellow light, dimly illuminating the large bed. He could see a graceful figure bulging out from under the loose duvet. Lu Chen resisted the love and desire in his heart and couldn't wait to get into the warm quilt. The next moment, a hot and fragrant female body leaned over and clung tightly to Lu Chen's chest. A pair of jade-like arms hugged his neck, and a charming whisper sounded in his ear. "Love me." As if adding oil to the fire, Lu Chen could no longer suppress the impulse in his heart. He growled and pressed the person in his arms under his body. The bedroom was suddenly filled with the tide of spring, and the waves were rolling. He completely forgot that he was in the human world. Early in the morning, Lu Chen woke up to the crisp chirping of birds. There was a large park near Zicheng Garden. As a high-end community, the green environment inside and outside the community was excellent. Therefore, it was inevitable that many birds would linger around and build nests. They would sing early in the morning and look for food, waking up people who were sleeping. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was a beautiful picture of a beautiful woman sleeping in spring. Chen Fei was still sleeping soundly. Her black hair was scattered, and there was a smile on her lips. In the faint morning light, she looked like a muse. Of course, she was naked. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. His memory gradually recovered, and he finally confirmed that he was not dreaming. Thinking of the love and affection last night, he couldn't help but be tempted. Probably because she felt the pressure from Lu Chen, Chen Fei woke up with a moan. Lu Chen lowered his head and kissed her neck. "You're so annoying." Chen Fei giggled. She couldn't help but be entangled with him, and the result was out of control. In the end, Lu Chen saw that she really had no strength and was begging for mercy, so he reluctantly let her go. Chen Fei used the last bit of her strength to pinch him and said in a sweet voice, "I still have work today." Lu Chen smiled and kissed her back. He got up in high spirits. It was rare that he didn't go out to exercise in the morning. Instead, he went to the kitchen to find the ingredients in the fridge and made a hearty breakfast himself. There were poached eggs, porridge, fried bacon. Chen Fei also woke up and came to the kitchen in her pajamas. She hugged Lu Chen from behind and leaned her face on his broad and strong back. She murmured, "Say, let's do this every day." okay? Lu Chen put down the shovel, turned around and hugged her in his arms. He smiled and said, of course I don't have a problem with that. Chen Fei pouted and sighed helplessly. She enjoyed living alone with Lu Chen, but if she wanted to do this every day, she would have to give up her career. This wasn't what she wanted, at least for now. So what she said just now was just a casual remark. Lu Chen saw through everything. He held back his laughter and said, actually, you don't have to do this every day. As long as you need it, I will accompany you anytime for free. Eat, chat, and sleep with you. What do you think? That's nice. Chen Fei was amused by him, and the depressed mood just now suddenly disappeared. Lu Chen smiled and said, let's eat breakfast. The two of them sweetly and affectionately ate a heartwarming breakfast together. It was almost 10 o'clock when they finished eating. Chen Fei wiped her mouth with a napkin and began to clean up the plates. She asked casually, who did you drink with so late last night? Lu Chen, he thought that this matter was already over. He didn't expect that Chen Fei would still remember it. Chen Fei snorted and said, even if you don't tell me, I know. Liao Jia must have dragged her there, right? Although Chen Fei didn't participate in 72H, she still knew a lot of things. Lu Chen smiled bitterly and said, Brother Jijia was there too. He knew that Chen Fei didn't like Liao Jia very much. Of course, he didn't like it when Liao Jia dragged him to drink. In fact, it wasn't many times. Chen Fei said coquettishly, don't use Brother Jijia as a shield. Don't hang out with Liao Jia in the future. He's good at eating, drinking, whoring, and gambling. Won't you learn bad things from him? Lu Chen smiled bitterly. Chen Fei said seriously, I don't object to you making friends, like Brother Tan and Brother Lin. They are all very good, but it's better to hang out with some people and drink less. There are too many people in the circle who make mistakes because of drinking. Lu Chen surrendered. I know. He knew that Chen Fei was doing this for his own good. Chen Fei continued, don't go out these days. I want to finish the new album. Lu Chen said solemnly, yes, my dear wife. Chen Fei's pretty face suddenly blushed. She spat and said, who's your wife? You're still in the probation period. Be careful that I don't kick you at any time. Lu Chen wasn't afraid and said, I'm still in the probation period. Then I'll have to work harder tonight. Hearing his teasing, Chen Fei was so embarrassed that she couldn't even raise her head. She reached out and pinched him hard. Ring ring ring. The two of them were laughing and joking when the phone on the coffee table in the living room suddenly rang. Lu Chen had no choice but to let go of Chen Fei and ran over to pick up the phone. It was Lu Shi who called him. Lu Chen hung up after saying a few words to his sister. Chen Fei saw that his expression was a little strange. She couldn't help but walk over and ask, what's wrong? Lu Chen said, my sister has negotiated with SPG. SPG was the SPG entertainment company in South Korea. Recently, SPG had been negotiating with Lu Chen's studio about the import of Autumn in My Heart. Because SPG's conditions were relatively harsh, it was very difficult for Lu Shi to negotiate with the representative of SPG, Pu Young-ho. She didn't expect that there would be a result this morning. Of course, Chen Fei knew about this. She was surprised. Really? How much did SPG offer? 1 billion won. Chapter 330. SPG's negotiations had come to an end. When it came to the signing of the contract, Lu Chen had to appear personally. Moreover, Chen Fei had work to complete, so their sweet time was destined to be short-lived. The official signing of the contract was in the afternoon. Initially, Lu Shi had been arguing with SPG, sticking to her own bottom line. There was still a huge difference between the two parties. Now that the situation had taken a turn for the worse, of course, there was a reason. It was because KG Entertainment had contacted Luchin Studio. KG and SPG were both famous entertainment agencies in South Korea. They were on par with each other and had a large number of celebrities under them. They also had offices in Beijing. Due to their similar status in business, the competition between the two parties had always been fierce. KG's sudden involvement in the introduction of Autumn in My Heart inevitably aroused SPG's vigilance. Perhaps SPG did not place much importance on this TV series at first, but the situation was completely different now. No matter what, Pu Jinghao would not be willing to let KG steal the peaches. This was equivalent to a slap in the face. Therefore, Pu Jinghao's attitude quickly softened, and he no longer insisted on investing in Lu Chen's new TV series. This was the biggest difference between the two parties. South Koreans were the same as Japanese, they had a very typical island mentality. They were very good at small details and liked to calculate, but they lacked the big picture and strategic thinking. SPG did not think that the TV series, Autumn in My Heart, would bring them much benefits after it was introduced into South Korea. They wanted to use this as a springboard to get a foot in the increasingly popular domestic film and television market. Luchin Studio, which did not have a strong background, was undoubtedly a very good partner to work with. But SPG was too greedy. Back when they were filming Autumn in My Heart, Luchin was still a nobody in the film and television industry. He wanted to find a partner to work with and had to use Chin Fei's popularity to promote. Now, he did not even need to deliberately spread the word that a lot of people were waving money at him to work with. Because Autumn in My Heart had created a miracle in the ratings, the possibility of Lu Chen's new TV series losing money was too low. Who wouldn't want to get involved in an investment that was almost 100% profitable? But for Luchin Studio, this part of the benefits would never be easily released. Even if it was shared with others, the premise was to ensure that they could win more benefits. The Koreans' way of thinking was laughable. Now that Ching Yao-jin appeared out of nowhere, Pu Jinghao finally realized that his bargaining chips were too few, so he decisively changed the terms of cooperation and quickly restarted the negotiation with Lu Shi. Initially, from the studio's perspective, waiting for SPG and KG to fight was the best choice. However, it was naive to expect two large Korean entertainment agencies to cut their own flesh and bleed to the point of bloodshed in the country. They weren't that stupid. Therefore, after weighing the pros and cons and seeing SPG's true sincerity, Lu Shi did not use any delaying tactics and finalized the final agreement with Pu Jinghao. It wouldn't be good for Luchin Studio if this matter dragged on for too long, because the studio's next step was to develop a new drama. The promotion of Blue in Korea was mainly to increase its reputation and status. 1 billion won was only 5.6 million renminbi when converted to RMB. In addition, SPG agreed to import Lu Chen's new drama into Korea at the same time. In return, Chinese artists under SPG would star in the new drama. This kind of cooperation was beneficial to both parties. Luchin Studio would be able to enter the Korean market as it wished, and SPG would be able to do something in the domestic film industry. Once the signed artists became popular because of their new drama, the benefits would be huge. At 2 p.m., at SPG's Beijing office, Lu Chen and Pu Jinghao signed the official contract. SPG was very influential. They actually invited a cultural counselor from the Korean embassy in China to attend the ceremony. In addition, there were many Beijing media reporters present, making the signing ceremony simple and grand. After the signing ceremony, Lu Chen accepted an interview from the media and answered some related questions. That afternoon, Luchin Studios' official account released the news. Autumn in My Heart was confirmed to be introduced into South Korea, and the copyright transaction price was as high as 1 billion won. There were also many pictures in the blog post, including photos of Lu Chin and Poo Jeng-hao shaking hands with the Korean cultural counselor, as well as the scene of him being interviewed by the media. As soon as this news was released, it immediately caused a lot of sensation inside and outside the circle. At present, Autumn in My Heart has been removed from QQ Video, but the replay on Beijing Television and Zhejiang Satellite TV is still very popular. When the comprehensive ratings are not less than 2.5%, it shows a strong attraction. Online broadcasts and 2TV broadcasts have cultivated a large number of Blue fans. The number of members following the official Tiaba of Autumn in My Heart has exceeded 1 million, and related discussion topics have always been in full swing. So now when fans know that Blue will be broadcast in South Korea, it is a surprise and they all feel proud. For a long time, it has been Japanese and Korean TV series and variety shows that have been introduced into China in large numbers, especially Korean TV series, which has always been one of the representatives of the Korean wave, forming a great impact on domestic TV series, especially idol dramas. Although the current situation has improved, and domestic TV audiences are gradually tired of idol dramas, the ratings of imported Korean TV series are quite good. In contrast, there are only a handful of Chinese dramas that have returned to Japan and South Korea, mainly historical dramas and adaptation of famous works. It is rare for an urban romance drama like Autumn in My Heart to break into the South Korean market. And even if it does break in with great difficulty, the ratings are terrible, and it is nothing more than a hype topic. The success of Autumn in My Heart has undoubtedly brightened people's eyes. The price of 1 billion won is not very high, but it has also created a new record for the export of the same type of drama. Moreover, Blue fans are also full of confidence that Blue will definitely be successful in South Korea. But not everyone is a Blue fan, and not everyone believes that Blue will definitely be successful. Some people in the Waves blog question that this is the mutual hype between Lu Chin Studio and SPG, and the transaction amount is seriously watered down. Some people are not optimistic about the trip of Blue to South Korea, thinking that it will fail like other Chinese dramas. Among these doubters, there are many big verified accounts and small verified accounts. Ever since Lu Chin and Chin Fei's relationship was made public, there have been many strange voices on the internet. Perhaps it is because Lu Chin has been too popular recently, and there are always people who can't stand it. The appearance of Autumn in My Heart in the Korean TV market was undoubtedly a good opportunity for these people to attack. Chapter 331. Before Autumn in My Heart, there was a domestic TV series that was imported to Korea called Lover's Lies. It was a typical youth idol TV series. The main actors were new mainland artists trained by Korean entertainment companies. The producers were all big shots in the domestic industry. At that time, Lover's Lies had an average rating of 1.85% in the domestic market. It was considered a popular drama. The male and female leads became famous overnight. When it was imported to Korea, it was hyped up and was called a counterattack against the Korean wave. At that time, the producers were full of ambition. They even shouted the slogan of revitalizing the domestic TV series and returning to Japan and Korea. It made the fans' blood boil and they were looking forward to the performance of this idol drama in Korea. In the end, Lover's Lies had a mediocre response after it was broadcasted on Korea's cultural broadcasting station, which was also known as MBC. The ratings were less than 2% and it was quickly moved to non-prime time. It did not even cause a ripple. MBC was the second largest TV station in Korea. Different from domestic standards, ratings of less than 2% were considered a serious flop. There was no need to save it. It was directly sent to the crematorium. When the news reached China, the producers of Lover's Lies quietly stopped hyping it. The online water army disappeared instantly and became a joke in the industry. With Lovers' Lies as an example, it was normal that Autumn in My Heart was not looked upon favorably. On Wave's blog, there was a verified account with the ID Entertainment Face View. He sneered in his blog post, "Nowadays, celebrities are generally very arrogant. When they are singers and shoot TV shows, they can't wait to go abroad to gild their reputation. They hire a bunch of water armies and boast loudly. In the end, they get slapped in the face. Why bother? Isn't it better to keep a low profile and be humble?" Entertainment Face View had more than 10 million fans on Wave's blog. He specialized in commenting on gossip news and celebrities in the entertainment industry. He was known for his sharp writing and vicious tongue. He had many fans. There were many celebrities who had been attacked by this verified account. Moreover, he was very particular in choosing his targets. Basically, he would destroy whoever was popular and ignore those who were outdated or not famous. It catered to the psychology of a portion of people. And recently, on the blog, the most popular young artist is none other than Lu Qin. It was just that Lu Chen's image had always been good, and it was not easy to find fault with him. This time, the news released by Lu Chen's studio could be regarded as a target for some people. Many people agreed with the idea of looking at all aspects of entertainment, but it was also countered by Lu Chen's fans. "I'm so sour that my teeth are about to fall off. Isn't it a good thing that Autumn in My Heart was imported into Korea? Sour. It hasn't even been broadcast yet, and you already know that you're going to be slapped in the face. Are you a fortune teller? Say that Lu Qin is full of himself. Who do you think you are? I, Chen, am not low profile and humble enough. Why couldn't he say such a good thing? I knew someone would be jealous. Have you read Autumn in My Heart? If you haven't seen it, please shut up." Scram. Lu Qin had only debuted for less than a year, but he had already cultivated a group of loyal fans, especially Lu Jiejun, who was the core of the fan club. Although the founder, Li Mubai, was basically in a retired state, but relying on the official support, it had become more and more regular, and its fighting power was not what it used to be. Not long after the blog post of "Looking at All Aspects of Entertainment" was published, his comments section was flooded. However, a blogger like him was never afraid of quarreling. He immediately replied to Lu Chen's fans. Lu Sun said that insulting and threatening is not a battle. "I am deeply disappointed with the quality of Lu Chen's fans, and I also hope that Mr. Lu Qin can control his fans." At the same time, he also Lu Qin FMX, and put on a fighting stance. There were all kinds of people on the blog. The quality of Lu Chen's fans was not bad, but it was inevitable that some people would curse and say some dirty words in the comments, and some of them were deliberately fanning the flames with bad intentions. Looking at All Aspects of Entertainment deliberately picked out these comments, and Lu Qin, its intentions could be imagined. His supporters took the opportunity to join the battle and launched a fierce battle with Lu Chen's fans on the blog. Therefore, the war provoked on the Waves blog inevitably spread to Lu Qin. For a long time, Lu Qin did not like to argue with others on the blog. His personal blog was often managed by Lu Shi, and the blog posts basically did not involve the right and wrong of the circle. As a well-known artist, even if he won, he would be stained with shame. It was not worth it at all. However, this time it involved his fans, and the other party showed such blatant malice. In addition, the direction of the wind was obviously not in the right direction. Lu Qin felt that he had to stand up and speak, otherwise, he would disappoint countless fans. Everyone was supporting him. If he did not say a word, wouldn't he be laughed at? Of course, Lu Qin would not step into the trap set by Looking at All Aspects of Entertainment. He directly ignored this guy and sent a new blog post to all his fans. In this blog post titled, "Touched Forever, Thank You." In the blog post, Lu Chen wrote, "On behalf of myself and Lu Chen Studio, I would like to thank all my fans who have supported me. You are the cutest and most amiable people in the world. Without your love, I would not be able to achieve what I have today. In order to express my gratitude, I would like to announce a very important decision here. As long as the average ratings of Autumn in My Heart in South Korea reach 10%, then 1,000 fans will be selected from the support group and each fan will be given a 3-day, 2-night Korean happy package. If it exceeds 10%, it will be calculated according to the actual ratings. If it is 11%, it will be 1,100. There will be no upper limit. Some people will definitely say that 10% is so high, and that you, Lu Chen, are completely empty words. There is no way you can fulfill it. But I firmly believe that Autumn in My Heart is an outstanding TV series. If it can win in China, it will also be successful in South Korea. Anything less than 10% is not within the scope of consideration. Please wait and see." Once this long blog post was published, it immediately caused a huge sensation among the fans and the industry. 10% was not considered very high for the average ratings of Korean TVB TV series. It was considered to be below average. The popular TV series of the three major TVB TV stations were generally between 20 to 30%, and it was not uncommon for the so-called national TV series to have 40% and above. But for a foreign TV series, and one that was imported from China, 10% was a very high target. Autumn in My Heart was an urban romance TV series. Lu Chen's blog post was tantamount to forcing himself into a corner. If the ratings of Autumn in My Heart didn't reach 10%, then his declaration would become a joke, and his face would be completely lost. While the fans were surprised, they were also stimulated by Lu Chen's ambition to make their blood boil. There was also the exciting lucky draw. South Korea had always been a hot destination for overseas travel. A 3-day, 2-night Korean happy package cost around 5,000 yuan. Even if it was a large group purchase, it would cost at least 3,500 yuan. According to Lu Chen's decision, if the average ratings of Autumn in My Heart reached 10%, it would mean that he would have to fork out 3 to 4 million yuan to give back to the fans. It was definitely a huge sum. How many celebrities had treated their fans so generously? My Chen is mighty. Target 10%, oh yeah. I'm so looking forward to it. Let's quickly broadcast Autumn in My Heart in South Korea. I really want to go to South Korea to play. Although I've been to South Korea twice, if I can get the lucky draw, I'm willing to go 10 more times. There's no need to say anything else. Big Lu Chen, we will always support you. Always support +1. Support. This time, no one cared about that big verified account's entertainment aspect anymore. The passionate fans flooded the comment section of Lu Chen's blog with all kinds of support and requests for him to get the lucky draw. What was interesting was that the number of fans of Lu Chen's Waves blog support group, Lu Jiejun's Group V, had increased by more than 1 million in just a few hours. Through this incident, Lu Chen not only lightly resolved the malicious provocation of entertainment aspect, but also very well united the hearts of the fans, greatly enhanced the loyalty of the fans, and made himself a hot topic in the blog once again. Entertainment aspect, entertainment aspect, entertainment aspect, etc. It was undoubtedly an outstanding online marketing. If Lu Chen was the main character, then entertainment aspect had become the antagonist. He was probably angry because of this. Very quickly, he said on his blog, "If the ratings of Autumn in My Heart exceed 10% in South Korea, I'll run naked on the streets." Entertainment aspect obviously wanted to continue hyping up, but unfortunately, the netizens were all experienced and knowledgeable. Everyone was used to seeing all kinds of people eating their keyboards and eating sh*t on the forums. Who would care if he ran naked or not? Therefore, other than a small number of fans who went to ridicule him, not many people added to his popularity. But the most interesting thing was yet to come. That night, Chen Fei posted on her Waves blog, saying that if the average ratings of Autumn in My Heart reached 10% in South Korea, then she would pay out of her own pocket to upgrade the 3-day, 2-night happy tour package that Lu Chin had promised her fans to a 3-day, 2-night sweet tour for 2 people. The happy tour was a single-player tour, and the group purchase price was at least 3,500, while the 2-player tour was at least 5,000 plus. Although the value did not double, the meaning was completely different. Of course, as a prerequisite, Lu Chin has to include her fans in the lucky draw crowd. Chen Fei's joining pushed the atmosphere of the blog war to a climax. Lu Chin and her fans were just like having a festival, talking and looking forward to it in blogs, post bars and forums. Lu Chin and her fans are in full swing. In such an atmosphere, the group of people led by Entertainment Aspect were completely crushed in terms of popularity. They could only waiting with Lu Chin and Chen Fei's fans. Waiting for the results of Autumn in My Heart in South Korea. Chapter 332. My Fei is mighty. This is a blatant display of affection, but I like it. That's right, I knew it would be a public display of affection after their relationship was made public. The days of dog abuse have arrived. I'm thinking very seriously. What if I get a double date but don't have a girlfriend? If you don't have a girlfriend, you can find a gay friend. My Fei is indeed domineering, and your Chen is not bad either. Us fans are blessed. Everyone, go to SPG's official website and ask them to send Autumn in My Heart to the airwaves as soon as possible. Support my Chin, support my Fei. Ever since Lu Chin and Chen Fei's relationship was officially exposed, the fans had changed the way they addressed them. Lu Chen's fans like to call him my Chin and Chen Fei, your Fei. On the other hand, Chen Fei's fans called him my Fei and your Chin. As for the two's common fans, they naturally called them my Chin and my Fei. Currently, the number of common fans was increasing, and it was naturally very refreshing to see the two of them showing off their affection. Especially this time, the show of affection had caught everyone off guard. While everyone was feeling touched, they also went to SPG's official website and strongly requested SPG to send Blue to the Korean television station as soon as possible to broadcast it. Due to the limited number, domestic TV series that wanted to be broadcast in Korea were all handled by an entertainment agency like SPG. The latter had a long-term relationship with the 3 major Korean TV stations. SPG spent 1 billion won to import Autumn in My Heart. Although they had the intention of using Lu Chin's studio to speed up the expansion of the China market, they were also very willing to recoup their costs. Coupled with the strong request of Lu Chin and Chen Fei's fans, SPG immediately said that they would contact the Korean TV stations as soon as possible and strive to broadcast it on one of the 3 major TV stations as soon as possible. In order to shorten the time, SPG used an unconventional method for Autumn in My Heart. They did not redub it, but added bilingual subtitles on the basis of the original to save costs and ensure the original taste of the work. Of course, doing so might make some Korean audiences uncomfortable, but SPG's positioning was very clear. This imported drama was targeted at young people, and they were the most receptive to foreign films with subtitles. Therefore, on the 3rd day after the agency contract was signed, the high-definition source of Autumn in My Heart was sent by air to SPG's headquarters in Seoul's Gangnam district. On the one hand, they would redo the subtitles, and on the other hand, they would contact the 3 major TV stations. Even though SPG had done a lot of work on Autumn in My Heart, they still felt that it was wishful thinking for Autumn in My Heart to achieve 10% viewership ratings in Korea. Domestic urban youth idol films were greatly influenced by Korean dramas. The return of similar series to Korea was basically a failure. No matter how popular Autumn in My Heart was in China, it had no impact on Korean television viewers. Furthermore, the Korean TV audience was very supportive of Korean dramas. Even if Autumn in My Heart could be broadcasted in primetime, it would be considered a success if it could achieve 5% of the viewership ratings. South Korea's TV series market is like a rock, and it can't be easily shaken. Early spring in Seoul was still very cold, but in the commercial areas such as Myeongdong, Sinsadong, Lotte, and so on, the beautiful women on the streets couldn't wait to put on their spring clothes, adding countless bright colors to this big East Asian city. Song Jae walked out of the entrance of SPG's headquarters in Gangnam District. She didn't linger around the bustling commercial area. She ignored the brightly lit shops nearby and hurriedly turned to the dormitory building not far from SPG. When she arrived at her room, her roommates weren't back yet. Song Jae took out a cup of noodles from the cabinet and boiled some water. While waiting for the noodles to boil, she sat on the edge of the bed and massaged her calves to relieve the muscle soreness caused by a day of training. Song Jae had been in Korea for almost 2 years. As a Chinese artist signed with SPG, she was undoubtedly lucky to be able to go to SPG's headquarters as a trainee to undergo strict training and receive all kinds of training. However, 2 years of boring and arduous training had also worn away Song Jae's initial excitement, leaving only perseverance and confusion about the unknown future. After coming to Korea, she found out that there were many trainees under SPG, and there were many who were better than her. Even the opportunity to debut was not easy to come by, and the internal competition was very cruel. As a trainee who hadn't debuted yet, Song Jae had almost no source of income. In Seoul, where the expenses were high, she lived a very hard life. It was completely based on her unyielding spirit to persevere. The cup of noodles was ready. Although she had long hated the taste, she still forced herself to finish it. Song Jae had just cleaned up the empty cup and was about to lie on the bed to rest when a few roommates pushed the door open and entered. There were 4 trainees living in this small room. The short-haired girl who greeted Song Jae was called Yang Yani. She was also from China, 2 months later than her, and also hadn't debuted yet. Both of them had a good relationship in a foreign country, and they encouraged and supported each other. Song Jae turned over and asked, "Where did you guys go?" Yang Yani smiled and said, "We went to the amusement park." Song Jae noticed that she and the other 2 Korean roommates were carrying shopping bags in their hands. Yang Yani's family was much better off than Song Jae's, and she was usually very willing to spend money on shopping. Song Jae was a little envious and said, "I'm dead tired." Yang Yani put down the shopping bags and reached out to pull Song Jae up. "Let's go watch TV." Song Jae shook her head. "I'm not going." SPG's management was very strict. If you wanted to watch TV or surf the internet, you had to go to the multimedia room and computer room on the 2nd floor of the dormitory building. There was no internet cable or TV cable in the room, and of course, there was no TV. Yang Yani opened her eyes wide and said, "Don't you know? The very popular domestic drama, Autumn in My Heart, is broadcasting on KGS tonight. This drama was brought in by our agency, SPG. Autumn in My Heart." Song Jae was stunned. She had heard of this drama, and also knew that SPG had brought it to Korea. She just didn't expect it to be broadcasted so soon. Song Jae suddenly felt a little excited. This was a drama from China. Even if it wasn't for her studies, she had to support it, right? What time is it broadcasting? Yang Yani looked at her watch. There's still half an hour left. She turned her head and asked her 2 roommates in Korean, Maejin, Hueying, "Are you guys coming?" The 2 Korean roommates knew a little Chinese, and roughly understood what Yang Yani and Song Jiayi were talking about. They looked at each other and shook their heads. What was so good about China's dramas? Chapter 333. Song Jiayi and Yang Yani took the elevator down to the second floor of the dormitory. The multimedia room on the second floor was very large. It was divided into 4 separate rooms. Each room had a TV, speakers, and karaoke equipment. 3 of the rooms played KBS, MBC, and KGS TV programs at night, mainly variety shows and TV series. KBS, MBC, and KGS were the 3 major TV stations in South Korea. These 3 wireless TV stations occupied most of the market share, mainly broadcasting news, variety shows, and TV series. There were also more than 20 cable TV stations, mainly broadcasting imported movies, American TV series, Japanese TV series, late-night adult dramas, and so on. There were nearly 200 trainees living in the dormitory of SPG Entertainment Company. Not all of these trainees were signed by SPG. Some were trained on behalf of others, but the company treated them equally in management. For these trainees, watching the programs of the 3 major TV stations was both a relaxing and a learning process. Through the TV screen, they could get to know many seniors in the circle and familiarize themselves with various variety festivals and TV series. Everyone could discuss with each other in the multimedia room. Big relief from the pressure brought about by the strict training. Song Jiayi and Yang Yani arrived at the room where KGS was playing. The room was not big. There were 5 rows of seats in the front and back, which could accommodate 50 to 60 people watching the program at the same time. However, when the 2 of them arrived, there were only 3 or 4 people sitting in the room. It seemed very quiet. The large LCD TV hanging on the wall was replaying KGS's current affairs program. Song Jiayi and Yang Yani greeted the trainees politely and found a seat to sit down. Song Jiayi said softly, "There are so few people." Yang Yani curled her lips and said, "They must have seen the program list. They know that KGS is playing a TV series imported from our country. Naturally, they are not interested. MBC is playing The Queen's Power." The Queen's Power was a large-scale historical drama produced by MBC. The ratings of the first few episodes had already exceeded 25%. It was very likely to become the first popular drama of the year. Moreover, the leading actors were all famous Korean artists, so naturally, there were many people watching it. On the other hand, the Korean TV audience was quite xenophobic. They were not very interested in foreign TV series. Even the well-produced, top-notch American TV series were not very popular in Korea. The ratings of cable TV stations were usually below 5%. As for Chinese dramas, only historical dramas could interest the Korean audience. What Yang Yani and Song Jiayi didn't know was that after SPG brought Autumn in My Heart in, they had spent a lot of effort on broadcasting it. It was already very difficult for it to get on KGS's screen. SPG first contacted MBC because SPG had the best relationship with this second largest TV station in South Korea. However, MBC was not very interested in the samples sent by SPG. The head of MBC's program department even mocked SPG's people, saying that the 1 billion won they spent would be better spent on charity. At the very least, it would give them a good reputation. What was the point of buying Hua dramas? There was nothing new under the sun. The news that SPG had spent a huge sum of money to purchase a Chinese drama series to expand into the China market had already spread throughout the industry. Most people scoffed at SPG's actions, thinking that SPG had made a stupid move in the face of fierce competition from KG and Han E. It wasn't that MBC didn't want it. It was just that they were asking for a very low price, and they wouldn't guarantee a broadcast slot. Of course, SPG couldn't agree to such conditions, so they tried contacting KBS, which was the Korean broadcasting station. However, KBS rejected them right away, leaving no room for negotiation. Left with no choice, SPG could only pin their hopes on KGS. Among the three major TV stations in South Korea, KGS had always been considered to be pro-Chinese. They had aired many Hwa dramas and even filmed documentaries like Koreans in Beijing, so they were relatively more accepting of Hwa dramas. Therefore, SPG was not rejected this time. KGS became interested after watching the samples of Autumn in My Heart and negotiated with SPG. However, KGS knew that SPG had hit a wall with the other two TV stations, so they haggled very hard. In the end, both parties came to an agreement that was similar to the one that Lu Chin had with Hygiene TV back then. The amount of copyright transfer would be decided based on the viewership ratings. SPG had fought so hard for KGS's broadcast slot. Autumn in My Heart would be aired after KGS's current affairs programs on Friday and Saturday. The broadcast time was 6:30 p.m., and 2 episodes would be aired first. There would be adjustments based on the viewership ratings. If the viewership ratings were high, it would be pushed back 2 hours to prime time. If the viewership ratings were low, it would be pushed back 5 hours. This was the best condition that SPG could get. This was the best they could do for this Hwa drama. The rest would depend on the performance of Autumn in My Heart. Young Yeoni and Song Jae had limited information about Autumn in My Heart. They only knew a little about Autumn in My Heart from the internet. They only knew that it was very popular in China. Of course, the two of them hoped that Autumn in My Heart would be a hit in South Korea, but it was unrealistic. After sitting for about 10 minutes, it was almost time for the broadcast. There were only 3 or 4 more people in the room. These Korean interns were probably curious about the Hwa drama that their company was representing. Moreover, there were no other popular dramas or variety shows at this time, so they came with the idea of watching something new. This could be heard from their whispers. Song Jae had been in South Korea for 2 years, and her Korean was pretty good. Therefore, she could understand what others were saying, so she felt a little uncomfortable. This discomfort turned into indignation. She could not help but pray in her heart for Autumn in My Heart, which she had yet to watch. She prayed that it would at least not embarrass itself. After the current affairs news, the opening scene of Autumn in My Heart appeared on the television screen. This urban romance drama that was imported from China was officially broadcast in South Korea. Song Jae and Young Yeoni were surprised to find that Autumn in My Heart did not have any redubbing. It was the original sound with bilingual subtitles. This made the two of them feel incomparably close. They immediately threw away those messy thoughts and focused on enjoying the show. They wanted to know what kind of charm this drama that had created a miracle in the country had. An episode was 45 minutes long. Including the advertisements at the beginning and end, it took about 100 minutes to finish 2 episodes. Song Jae and Young Yeoni sat there and did not leave for even a minute. After they finished watching, they felt that this drama was really good. The storyline was unique, the production and images were excellent, and the soundtrack was not inferior to the mainstream dramas in South Korea. Most importantly, the male and female leads of the first 2 episodes had not appeared yet, but the two of them were already attracted, and they were looking forward to the following plot. It's a very interesting TV series. A voice suddenly sounded behind them, giving Song Jae and Young Yeoni a shock. The two of them turned around and saw that there were 20 to 30 people sitting a few rows behind them. They were all trainees like them, and the one who spoke was a Korean girl that they had a good relationship with. Seeing Song Jae and Young Yeoni's shocked expressions, the girl smiled. I like this story very much. There should be more tomorrow, right? We can come and watch it together then. Song Jae nodded blankly. Oh, okay. Suddenly, she had an idea. Pulling young Yanni along, she ran to the computer room on the same floor. Then, she swiped her card and went online. She used the local search engine to search for content related to Autumn in My Heart. Plot, stills, and highlights. Through the relevant links, Song Jae entered the official forum of Autumn in My Heart. She was surprised to find that the forum had more than 1 million followers. It was very popular, and the atmosphere in the forum was also very good. There were many posts discussing the overseas broadcast of Autumn in My Heart. Most of these posts were speculations about the ratings, or blessings and wishes. Through the discussion posts, Song Jae found out that the author and male lead of Autumn in My Heart had actually made a bold statement about the ratings of the drama in South Korea. If the ratings exceeded 10%, he would give his fans 1,000 South Korean games. Such a shocking sum left Song Jae speechless, and she was even more amazed at Lu Chen's ambition. A 10% rating. Although Song Jae did not believe that Autumn in My Heart could achieve such a result, she was also infected by Lu Chen's lofty aspirations. She could not help but use her own account to post a post on the forum. I'm in Seoul, South Korea. I just finished watching Autumn in My Heart, and it was pretty good. There was a time difference of 1 hour between South Korea and China. It was 8:30 p.m. here, and it was 7:30 p.m. in China. It was the peak time for netizens to surf the net, and the forum was very popular. Therefore, the moment Song Jae's post was posted, there were immediately many replies. However, these replies were not very friendly. F***ck, trying to trick replies again. Level 1 Smurf. The OP is posting in South Korea, and I'm replying from Planet Namek. Please reply if you receive it. Seoul, South Korea. Isn't Seoul the capital of America? Why is it in South Korea? This doesn't make sense. F***ck off. Is it real or fake? There's no picture, no truth. The OP's registered ID is a girl. If it's a real girl, please don't make up stories. Thank you. I'm dying of laughter. Song Jae did not expect such an outcome, and was instantly dumbfounded. Young Yanni, who was sitting beside her, saw it and was so angry that she immediately ran to the media room next door to record a short video with her phone. Send it up and let them see. I'll slap these people to death. After the video was uploaded, there was a huge change in the direction of the post. F***ck, it's true. KGS TV station, I've wronged the OP, sorry. OP, where are you? Why does this place feel weird? Television station. OP, please take a picture. So many girls, please tell us the truth. Chapter 334. Autumn in My Heart signed an agency contract with SPG on the 5th of March and aired on KGS on the 25th. In just 20 days, SPG's efficiency was considered very high. The domestic rerun of Autumn in My Heart had not ended yet, and KGS had already aired 4 episodes on the 25th and 26th. Spring had bought the copyright of Autumn in My Heart for an ulterior motive. In order to save time and cost, they did not invest in the marketing of the drama and only released relevant information on their official website and blogs. KGS similarly did not place much importance on Autumn in My Heart. Other than the show preview a few days before the broadcast, there was no fanfare at all, and it felt a little sneaky. It could be said that apart from Lu Chen, no one was really optimistic about the performance of Autumn in My Heart in South Korea. Even the loudest fans were mostly just being stubborn. The South Korean drama market was not that easy to move. After the first 4 episodes of Autumn in My Heart were aired, the ratings were released very quickly. This inevitably attracted a lot of attention. 83%, 3. 7%, 5. 58%, 6. 12%, the average rating was 4. 4%. The ratings of South Korean dramas were different from China. The three major TV stations took turns to be the bankers, unlike China, where a drama could have a celebration party if it had a rating of 1%. The average rating of 4% was still passable, but it was nothing compared to those popular dramas that easily had ratings of 10%. For example, the currently popular MBC historical drama, The Power of the Queen, had a rating of close to 30%. Compared to this gorgeous new drama that had an investment of 10 billion won, Autumn in My Heart was like an ugly duckling. However, SPG and KGS's emphasis on Autumn in My Heart had a clear change. The average rating of 4% was not high, but from the first episodes to 83% to the fourth episode 12%, the ratings had more than doubled. This increase was shocking. One must know that Autumn in My Heart was a foreign drama, and it was a Chinese drama that had never been popular in the South Korean market. Without any investment in marketing, it had gained such a huge increase in just 2 days, which meant that this drama was going to be a hit. Based on the current ratings alone, Autumn in My Heart had already set a record for similar Chinese dramas being broadcasted on South Korean TV stations. There was a huge potential for improvement in the future. Most importantly, KGS found out through a phone interview with a subordinate agency that Blue was very well received by the audience, with more than 90% positive reviews. On the internet, especially in TV-related forums, there were also discussions about Blue. This is the first Chinese drama I've ever watched. It's surprisingly good. The male lead is very handsome and the female lead is very beautiful. The acting skills of the two are very good. This is a good drama worth recommending. The storyline is also very good. Did you guys notice that the names of the characters are very Korean? Other than the background, it feels like an outstanding Korean drama, not a Chinese drama. I've watched a few Hua dramas in the past, but they can't compare at all. Spoiler alert, this is a tragedy. Go to hell for spoilers. The unexpected viewership ratings and good reviews made SPG feel like they had found a treasure. Therefore, SPG and KGS met again and arranged a new publicity plan for Autumn in My Heart. KGS adjusted the broadcast time and delayed Blue to prime time. They also changed the broadcast time from 4 episodes per 2 days to 3 episodes per 3 days, extending the broadcast time. With the investment of publicity funds, Autumn in My Heart's popularity in Korea suddenly increased. And the effect was immediate. The 5th episode on April 1st had a viewership rating of 9.37%. The 6th episode on April 2nd had a viewership rating of 12.79%. On Sunday night, April 3rd, KGS aired the 7th episode of Autumn in My Heart. When Song Jae and Young Yeoni arrived at the multimedia room on time, they were shocked to find that it was filled with people. There were basically no empty seats. The two looked at each other, a strong sense of pride rising in their hearts. Since when did Chinese dramas become so popular in Korea? The two girls even keenly sensed that the gazes of the trainees on the scene had changed. That night, Blue's viewership rating reached 15.86%. Other than the surge in viewership ratings, the drama's viewership was also increasing significantly. Just like the high-definition digital TVs in China, the digital set-top boxes used by Korean TV viewers were equipped with a playback function. Many viewers were watching the first few episodes of Autumn in My Heart at different times. This was also a sign that Autumn in My Heart's viewership was exploding. The next morning, Song Jae and Young Yeoni had just finished their training and were about to rest when they were called to the office by the person in charge of the training center. An executive from SPG was already waiting there. The other party informed Song Jiayi and Yang Yani that the two had been selected to return to China and prepare to participate in the filming of Lu Chen's new drama. Song Jiayi and Yang Yani could not believe it when they heard the news. After confirming that it was true, the two could not help but cry tears of joy. Their hard work and perseverance had finally paid off. At the same time, the news of Autumn in My Heart's steadily increasing viewership in Korea quickly spread back to China. The latest episode's viewership rating had exceeded 15%. With 13 more episodes to go, the average viewership rating of the drama was already set to exceed 10%, and it would be far more than that. Since when did Chinese dramas become so popular in Korea? Many people in the industry who knew about the situation were shocked and went to Lu Chen's studio to inquire about the news. As for the fans of Lu Chen and Chen Fei, they were completely boiling. They didn't know the real significance of Autumn in My Heart being popular in South Korea, but they understood that Lu Chen and Chen Fei were going to fulfill their promises. This is a big deal. In the recording studio of Flying Stone Records, Lu Chen said to Chen Fei, "You're going to pay for your dowry." At the beginning, in order to fight back against the entertainment aspect, Big V, Lu Chen's original idea was to reach 10% of the viewership rating of Autumn in My Heart. Then he would draw out the first, second, and third prizes from the fans. The first prize would be 10 places for a luxury tour in South Korea, the second prize would be 100 places for a happy tour, and the third prize would be 1,000 souvenirs. As a result, Chen Fei scoffed at this and changed it to not be divided into the first, second, and third prizes, and directly draw 1,000 pairs. The announcement was made in 2 parts to give the fans a big surprise. Such a big surprise made Lu Chen really stunned. Lu Chen actually wanted to tell his girlfriend that in his dream world, the original Korean drama's viewership rating in South Korea reached 40% plus. Although the current situation was different, he believed that it should not be a big problem to get an average viewership rating of 20%. This meant that he would have to pay tens of millions of yuan, which was not enough even if he spent all the money he earned from selling to SPG. And Chen Fei's reason was very simple. If he wanted to play, he would play big. If he really made a name for himself in South Korea, it would be worth it no matter how much money he spent. As for the cost, she would cover it. A mere few million or tens of millions of yuan was not even a fraction of Heavenly Empress Chen's dowry. To Lu Chen's teasing, she proudly expressed her disdain. Chapter 335. On the 8th, 9th, and 10th of April, KGS continued to broadcast the 8th, 9th, and 10th episodes of Autumn in My Heart. Since both KGS and SPG had invested sufficient resources in marketing, coupled with the reputation they had built up in the early stages, the total of 20 episodes of Autumn in My Heart successfully broke the 20% mark and reached 22.31%. This caused quite a commotion in Korea. Firstly, among all the Chinese dramas imported by the 3 major Korean TV stations, Autumn in My Heart had jumped to 3rd place in the viewership ratings, second only to Romance of the Three Kingdoms and Dream of the Red Chamber, both of which were produced in the 1990s. Among similar dramas, Autumn in My Heart had undoubtedly set a record for Chinese dramas in Korea, and most importantly, it had the potential to continue improving. SPG could be said to have unintentionally planted a willow tree, and according to the contract it signed with KGS, it would not be a problem to recoup the cost, and profits would not be a problem as well. Coupled with the agency agreement with Lu Chen Studio, they had made a huge profit. This Korean entertainment company had been in China for many years, and their representative, Park Young-ho, was half Chinese, so he understood the psychology of the Chinese people. Under his instructions, SPG's official account on Waves not only broadcast the ratings of Autumn in My Heart on time, but also forwarded the good reviews from the Korean media and audience. Many Korean media outlets were in disbelief over the popularity of Autumn in My Heart. In Korea, influential newspapers and magazines such as Chosun Sinbo, Hanseong Daily, Hanwon Weekly, and other influential newspapers and magazines all published articles to explore the reasons for the popularity of this drama. Some tabloids even exclaimed that, Hwa Lu's counterattack. Although this statement was too exaggerated, and was basically a sensationalist headline, it also reflected the influence of Autumn in My Heart. Unlike China, the proportion of Korean television viewers was very high, and dramas and variety shows were the most popular, so the ratings of strong dramas could easily reach tens of %. As for the reason why the Korean audience liked Autumn in My Blood, there were basically two main reasons. The first reason was that they liked the plot of Autumn in My Blood. The strange combination of fate, heartbreaking emotional entanglements, and the foreign setting attracted a group of housewives. Loo Chin had purposely turned the names of the characters in the story into Korean, which also increased the audience's affinity to a certain extent. The second group was the young audience. Loo Chen's tall and handsome looks, Chun Fei-er's pure and beautiful looks, and the wonderful performances of the supporting actors and actresses made them suddenly realize that there were also outstanding and charming idols in the entertainment industry of the Ling Nation. It must be pointed out here that Chun Fei, who had participated in many Sino-Korean music concerts, had a bit of fame in Korea. With the help of Autumn in My Heart, her popularity skyrocketed more than tenfold. As for Loo Chin, needless to say, his Korean fan support group had already appeared on Korean social media. Although it was unofficial, the number of members had reached tens of thousands, and most of them were girls. Interestingly, on the 10th, Your Eyes, the theme song of Autumn in My Heart, performed by Loo Chin and Chun Fei, entered the K-pop chart as a Chinese song, ranking at number 27. The K-pop chart was the most authoritative music chart in Korea. There were only a total of 30 positions. As the Korean entertainment industry was extremely developed, and the songs on the chart were not limited to Korean or foreign languages, the competition for this chart was very fierce. It was already very commendable that Your Eyes was able to enter the chart. All kinds of records and honors caused Autumn in My Heart to set off a small storm in Korea. KGS even used this drama to compete head-on with MBC's popular drama, The Power of the Queen, to compete for advertising resources. This was unimaginable in the past. It was completely achieved by Autumn in My Heart with its own strength. And these records and honors were all told by SPG to the domestic fans of Autumn in My Heart through the Waves blog. The vast number of fans of Autumn in My Heart were naturally excited again, feeling that it was too glorious. SPG used this opportunity to reap a huge wave of favorability points. The number of fans on the blog actually increased by more than 10 times. Many fans of Autumn in My Heart, as well as fans of Loo Chin and Chun Fei, went to the verified account Entertainment Side View blog to leave a message. Waiting for the blogger to run naked. Blogger, show some of your qualities and run naked on the streets. The viewership rating is 31%. When is the blogger going to run naked? Didn't you say that everyone would go and watch? I think the blogger's face is already swollen from the slap. He should be too embarrassed to face anyone. Everyone, disperse. You have nothing to say now, right? This verified account had previously said that if Autumn in My Heart broke 10% in Korea's viewership ratings, he would run naked on the streets. Now that it was only halfway through the broadcast, it was already a foregone conclusion that it would break 10%. His face had already been slapped until it could not be any more swollen. This showed one thing. As a public figure, it was very important to be careful with your words and actions. You should not speak too confidently, otherwise, you might not be able to step down from the stage. Of course, those who managed to become an internet celebrity on the blog were usually thick-skinned. After a few days of silence, Entertainment Perspective posted a new blog post, saying that he would keep his promise after Autumn in My Heart ended its broadcast in South Korea. What made people spurt rice was that just as Entertainment Side View said that he would keep his promise, police officer V. Safe Capital replied to him, exposing private parts of the body in public, including running naked, is a violation of public security regulations. He will be detained for 3 days as punishment. This matter immediately became a big joke on the Waves blog. The domestic media also took the opportunity to join in the fun. Many mainstream media reported the news of Autumn in My Heart being a hit in Korea, praising this TV series for winning glory for Chinese dramas. Indeed, the domestic film and television market was unprecedentedly prosperous, but excellent original works were rare, especially those that could be successfully broadcast on foreign television stations. That was even rarer. If they did not praise such a thing, what else could they praise? Compared to the clamor on the internet and the media adding fuel to the fire, the response in the domestic film and television industry was completely different. Although there were some voices of jealousy, most of them were researching and discussing why Autumn in My Heart could achieve such great success. In terms of investment, the investment for Autumn in My Heart was no more than 10 million. In terms of the star lineup, there were no other big shots other than Chin Fei, and all the supporting roles were originally unknown newcomers. In terms of production, the producer Chinda Brothers Pictures was a junior in the industry. In terms of story, Autumn in My Heart was a tragedy. However, this low-budget TV series completely crushed those huge productions with hundreds of millions of investment and stars. Many film and television companies were ready to make a move. The success of Autumn in My Heart allowed them to see a shining golden path, and that was to follow the trend and imitate. The trend of imitating in the domestic film and television series had a long history, and it was seen as a shortcut to make money. When a movie or TV series became popular, there would inevitably be a large number of imitators competing for the market. Autumn in My Heart was so successful that it would be strange if there was no imitator, especially when Lu Chin had publicly announced that there would be no sequel to this TV series. It was as if people saw a large piece of fat being thrown to the ground. As a result, many screenwriters and authors in the Beijing circle received orders. The requirements of the investors were all to write a new script according to the model of Autumn in My Heart. The timing was getting better, and the plot was more similar, the better. Not only that, several film and television companies had already announced the start of new projects, and if one looked carefully at their publicity announcements, one could see the shadow of Autumn in My Heart. But for the tens of thousands of Chin and Fei fans, they did not care about those pirated TV series. What they cared about was when would Lu Chen's new TV series be released. After the premiere of Autumn in My Heart, Lu Chin had said that he would release a new TV series this year. The new TV series had nothing to do with Autumn in My Heart, and it was not the sequel of the latter. This made the fans extremely look forward to it, but 2 months had passed, and Lu Chin's studio had not released any relevant information. No film and television company had announced that they would cooperate with Lu Chin. The patience of the fans was always limited, especially when the good news of Autumn in My Heart in South Korea came. They wanted Lu Chin to give a clear answer. How long do we have to wait? Countless fans ran to Lu Chin and Chin Fei's blogs to leave messages. This resentment was so strong that even Lu Chin felt great pressure and had to speak out. In fact, it was not that Lu Chin was deliberately hanging everyone's appetite, but during this period of time, he had been busy with the top priority of this year, that was, Chin Fei's new album. It was not new for Chin Fei to release a new album. She has released more than 10 albums, but this album was very unusual. It was her transformational work. For a long time, Chin Fei has been dubbed the Queen of Sweet Song. This title was both an honor and a burden, especially at her age. Coupled with the changes in the market, transformation was imperative. And whether the transformation could be successful or not was related to Chin Fei's music career, so of course she attached great importance to it. Under such circumstances, how could Lu Chen, who was in charge of half of the new album, stay out of it? As one of the producers of the album, he was duty-bound to stay in Flying Stone Records. It was also because of his great importance that Chen Fei's requirements for the new album reached a demanding level. In order to complete the album, she pushed off a lot of announcements and endorsement activities, and repeatedly polished the work in the recording studio, especially the arrangement, which was even more elaborate. Big delay in the completion time. So when the album was finally recorded, it was already mid-April. Fortunately, Lu Chen also squeezed out time to write all the new scripts during this period. He had an explanation for his fans: "You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."